Chapter 295. In the office of the chairman of Imperial Star. When Father Quan saw the entertainment news, he sighed and turned off the television. He then called his secretary over the intercom. "Call CEO Quan in." "Chairman Quan, I'm really sorry, President Quan isn't in the company." The female secretary replied while trembling with fear. Father Quan subconsciously clutched his chest. He was so upset that he couldn't breathe properly. "Hurry and send someone to find him. Hai Rui is holding a press conference at 3 p.m. and they want Quan Yi to attend. We can't let this bastard damage Star King's interests." "Yes, Chairman Quan." The secretary hung up and immediately contacted Quan Yi. However, the person in question didn't care about it at all. He still went out to sea, hugged models, and displayed his prodigal nature. At this moment, Quan Yi was out at sea drinking with a bunch of scoundrels. A few of the heirs raised their glasses of champagne and laughed at Quan Yi. "The people from Hai Rui and your father are looking for you everywhere. Young master, you've caused such a big mess. When you get home, won't your father skin you alive?" Plus, after the press release for Evil Child this morning, Mo Ting directly revealed that he doesn't know you well at all. Your photos and obscene poems are meaningless to him. Bro, you wouldn't be so heartless as to frame a model, would you? How cheap would that be? Quan Yi's face turned from red to white, then from white to green. "Let's go back to Beijing. Don't tell me you're actually going to Hai Rui's press conference." Quan Yi smashed the glass of champagne on the table and pulled out his phone. He then opened up the photo he previously ordered someone to Photoshop. It was the photo of Hua Rong's studio secretly taking a photo of the couple kissing. He even added the words, "Could it be that the love of the past was all fake?" The spoilt heir has released another photo. He has admitted that he is the man that was secretly photographed kissing Tangning. No way. If that was the case, then the spoilt heir and Tangning had long been together. Does CEO Mo know? What kind of drama is this? Now that you look at it, they really do look alike. Because of Hai Rui's PR, the original photo was basically deleted. The photos that were released were all photoshopped by Quan Yi. So, there was a high chance of being mistaken. Coupled with the fact that Quan Yi had personally admitted to it, it seemed Tangning and Quan Yi's relationship had been confirmed. Hai Rui was going to present evidence. He wanted to see what evidence Hai Rui had. After returning to Star King from the seaside, Quan Yi pushed open the door and entered Father Quan's office. Father Quan looked at him coldly and said in a low voice, "I'm already old. When are you going to stop fooling around? You clearly know the difference between you and Mo Ting, so why did you provoke Hai Rui? In your heart, I'm nothing, right? All these years, other than causing trouble and picking up girls, what achievements have you made? Have you ever earned a penny for Imperial Star? Do you know how many people are eyeing your father's chair? I can't live for a few hundred years. I can't take care of you for a few lifetimes." Quan Yi was also triggered by Father Quan's words. His eyes grew wide as he said fiercely, "I will definitely cause trouble for Mo Ting." Seeing that his son was hopeless, Father Quan raised his trembling arm and pointed at the office door. "Get out of here. By the way, you were the one who caused all of this. Hai Rui has asked you to attend the press conference at 3 p.m. If you don't want me to despise you as a CEO in name, you better not drag the entire Star King down with you." After hearing this, Quan Yi left the office without looking back. So what if he was fooling around? Wasn't the world played by the rich? A mere model had already slept with multiple men. So what if he slandered her? So, he couldn't understand a model. For the sake of a single model, two agencies would fall out with each other. Why wouldn't he go? After all, in his father's eyes, he was just an incompetent jerk. The incident continued to grow and its popularity continued to increase. Mo Ting wanted Tangning and Quan Yi to draw a clear line, but Quan Yi wouldn't allow it. So, as it neared 3 p.m., Fang Yu seriously prepared for the press conference. Of course, there was a new piece of evidence. After all, Quan Yi had just done another disgusting thing. Below the stage, rows of reporters sat neatly in rows. Their faces were filled with excitement. Originally, they thought Mo Ting's words were the final word. Who would have thought, Kuan Yi would once again turn the tables. Now, one side claimed that they weren't familiar with each other, while the other presented evidence to prove that they were in love. As for the truth, it all depended on what evidence Hai Rui had to present. It's almost 3 p.m., but Kuan Yi hasn't arrived yet. That spoilt brat shouldn't be coming. Who knows? I heard someone even saw him out at sea with a beautiful woman this morning. Fang Yu watched as the reporters whispered amongst themselves without much expression on his face. Mo Ting's demand for today's press conference was not only to make Star King pay for their actions, he also wanted Hai Rui to criticize the media. Most importantly, in order to prepare for the press conference, he did not even send Hu Jingjing overseas. Instead, he allowed her to leave on her own. Thinking about it, he realized he was not a good boyfriend at all. At 3 p.m., the press conference began. However, Kuan Yi did not make a single move. It seemed he had no intention of attending. But Fang Yu didn't care. He simply felt that with Kuan Yi present, the press conference would be even more exciting. With a signal from Fang Yu, the entire venue fell silent. All that could be heard was the sound of camera shutters. Fang Yu scanned his eyes across everyone, bowed slightly and began to speak. Firstly, I would like to welcome my friends from the media. I am sure you are tired of seeing me. After all, every press conference that Hai Rui organizes, big or small, has to be attended by me. But what can I do about it? Who asked me to hold up Hai Rui's image? The reporters burst into laughter. Okay, let's get back to business. Let's talk about something serious. After speaking, Fang Yu turned around. Just as he was about to face the giant screen behind him, there was suddenly a commotion at the entrance of the venue. A moment later, Kuan Yi appeared in front of everyone wearing a black trench coat and blue glasses. What? Are you starting without waiting for me? Fang Yu smiled as he looked at Kuan Yi. Welcome, President Kuan. What? Am I the only one that dares to come? Where's my precious Tongning? Where's your President Mo? Kuan Yi smiled frivolously. Fang Yu suddenly put away his smile, stood up straight and said to Kuan Yi, Our Tongning says the sight of you disgusts her. But our president has no reason to stop his work and waste his precious time for the sake of a spoilt heir. As Fang Yu said these words, his tone was obviously no longer polite. He had completely unleashed the aura that he had been hiding all this time. Of course, he blamed the fact that he couldn't send Hu Jingjing away on Kuan Yi's head. What did you say? A spoilt heir like Kuan Yi had never been humiliated like this before. He immediately lost his temper. But compared to what you've done, what I've said to you is already polite enough. Even so, it doesn't change the fact that Tongning and I are together. Fang Yu couldn't be bothered to look at him. He directly controlled the screen behind him and began to display the evidence. Chapter 296. On the screen, the first photo that appeared was the photo that Kuan Yi had released that afternoon. However, this time, it was a larger version. From the photo, it was obvious that the figure looked similar to Kuan Yi. In fact, some of the features were similar. So, the media wanted to know what Fang Yu was trying to say. Was he trying to clarify the truth? Or was he trying to prove that Tongning and Kuan Yi were in a relationship? So, this is President Kuan. Isn't that right? What does President Fang mean by this? Fang Yu looked at the reporters and asked, You can't see any flaws in this photo, right? I can't either. In that case, let's take a look at the original photo. As soon as these words left his mouth, a picture that looked exactly the same as the previous one appeared on the screen behind Fang Yu. The two pictures were placed side by side. Everyone, please take a closer look at the comparison between the two photos. The one on the right is from President Kuan's social media page, while the one on the left is the earliest photo that was released. We contacted the netizens and obtained the original photo. Haven't you guys noticed that the two male leads have different heights? Fang Yu pointed out to the crowd. Although we can't see his face, our Tongning is 178 centimeters tall. In the original photo, there is a gap of 12 centimeters between them. But what about President Kuan? He is almost the same height as Tongning. Everyone, take a closer look at the background. Don't you think you can see traces of tampering? What can this prove? Quan Yi sneered. Fang Yu was not in a rush as he continued to present evidence. On the screen behind him, a new photo appeared. This was information about the manor. This is a private manor. From what we know, you don't own any property here, right? I was brought in by Tongning. I'm sorry, but Tongning doesn't own any property either. Only the owner of the manor is allowed to bring people in. In a moment, the owner of the manor and the owner of the car in the photo will appear to explain everything. I won't waste any more time. But the conclusion is clear. President Quan's photo has been tampered with. As soon as Fang Yu's words left his mouth, the reporters erupted into an uproar. Hai Rui's evidence was sufficient and there were plenty of experienced people present. So, if they simply looked at Quan Yi's photo, they wouldn't be able to find any flaws. But, if they placed it next to the original photo, it would look too fake. Okay, this matter has been cleared up. There is no such thing as old love. In that case, do I and President Quan know each other well? Fang Yu continued to lead the media as he once again pulled out the photos that Quan Yi had previously posted. In President Quan's photo, there are 2 coffee cups. In the same place, there is also our Tongning's back. The 2 are not in the same frame. Does this mean they are on a date? Don't tell me you have evidence for this. Quan Yi's expression changed. When he was looking for Tongning, he had avoided her bodyguards. President Quan, if I don't have any evidence, do you think everyone in Paris is blind? Fang Yu couldn't help but laugh. Hai Rui is so resourceful that you can bribe passers-by. I simply feel like I was blind to have fallen for that bitch Tongning. In the end, I was played by Hai Rui. I admit defeat. If I was your father, I would feel pain for his face right now, Fang Yu said coldly to Quan Yi. After speaking to Quan Yi in a cold tone, Fang Yu pressed on the remote control in his hand. This time, he turned on the camera. In the video, from the moment Tongning stepped out of the hotel, she had been on her own. Including shopping, and drinking coffee. What date? This was complete nonsense. Quan Yi suddenly panicked as his hands clenched into fists. Fang Yu could see through Quan Yi's emotions. A spoilt heir like him simply wanted to have fun and didn't care about logic. He simply felt good when he hurt someone. But, today, he was going to teach this jerk a lesson on behalf of Mo Ting, Tongning, and even on behalf of this spoilt heir's parents. I'm sure everyone can see that from the moment Tongning stepped out of the hotel, she has been on her own. She did not go on any dates or meet with anyone. She simply walked around to kill some time because she had to return to Beijing. As for where this video came from, Fang Yu immediately contacted the hotel that Tongning was staying at the time and asked the hotel manager to explain. At that time, President Mo hired bodyguards from the hotel. To ensure Miss Tang's safety, our bodyguards normally carry pinhole cameras with them. They do not interfere with the privacy of our guests, they are simply used to record the surroundings of our guests. This is our hotel's usual practice and all our VIPs are aware of it. Of course, we also have to accommodate them according to their needs. After the call ended, Fang Yu waved his hands at everyone. The truth should be clear by now. But, because of President Quan's reckless actions, Tongning was violently attacked online and scolded in all sorts of ways. President Quan, you must be heartless. Tongning has no feud with you, yet you forced a woman like this. Is bullying women the only thing you are capable of? Everyone knows that Tongning doesn't like to explain herself. She has always felt that she has a clear conscience. But, think about it, how would you feel after being wronged like this? The reporters below the stage also looked ashamed. I really want to ask you, what has Tongning done wrong to you? Why is it that every time something happens, she is attacked by everyone? After hearing this, Quan Yi stood up to leave. But, Fang Yu held him back. Since the incident has blown up, Hai Rui has no intention of resolving it peacefully. The person that spread the rumors has already been invited to the police station for tea. In that case, President Quan, as the heir of a conglomerate, shouldn't you show your attitude after doing something so unmanly and bullying a woman? Actually, there's no need for that. After all, you are a famous spoilt brat, so it's normal for you to be so wasteful. In a little while, Hai Rui will settle this score with Star King. Quan Yi turned around and glared at Fang Yu. However, Fang Yu did not show a single trace of fear. Yet, the media continued to point fingers at Quan Yi. Most importantly, everyone in Beijing now knew that Quan Yi was a coward that only knew how to bully women. In particular, Fang Yu's last sentence completely trampled on Quan Yi's pride. If you have the ability, come and cause trouble for me. Fang Yu shook his head and acted frivolously. What's the point of looking for trouble for you? You only know how to bully women. Weak chicken. Everyone filled in the last two words on their own. Of course, after Quan Yi was embarrassed at such a big event, the people at Star King would have to walk with their tails between their legs and wear masks. Chapter 297. Quan Yi had framed Tongning, the almighty heir of Star King, the young master of the Quan family with a bright future, had actually framed a model. And this model turned out to be a woman. At this moment, not only the public, but even the internal staff of Star King were discussing, I feel so embarrassed. Star King has been completely disgraced by the spoilt heir. I don't think a man would bully a woman like this. Only a woman would make things difficult for another woman. Don't tell me the spoilt heir is actually a ladyboy. How did the chairman give birth to such a jerk? If I was him, I would have kicked him to death a long time ago in case he did something like this when he grew up. He has only framed a woman now. Who knows what he might do in the future? Why would a spoilt heir like him care about other people's feelings? Father Quan walked into Star King with a document in his hand. Hearing the whispers of his staff, his face turned red as he kicked open the office door. His secretary followed behind him in shock and asked in a trembling voice, "Chairman, should we go look for President Quan?" Father Quan took a deep breath and suddenly knelt down holding onto his chest, scaring his secretary so much that she immediately called an ambulance. Translator, Uni editor, Uni finally, her innocence was proven. At the same time, the words Tongning said to her fans that she wasn't familiar with President Quan were also posted online. A passerby innocently asked a fan, why didn't Tongning explain herself earlier? If our Tongning explained herself, would you believe her? We are all women. Why is it that whenever you see a handsome male celebrity, you find a reason to support them, even if it means murder or arson? On the other hand, an innocent model like Tongning has to endure the malicious accusations and insults from her fellow women? The man was stunned by the question and did not respond. That's enough. We've had enough. Tongning has been slandered on everything along the way. The only thing she hasn't done is kneel down in front of the netizens. From now on, we will protect her. Yes, from now on, we will protect Tongning. We will never let her come to any harm again. Fans spontaneously formed the Tongning Global Anti-Defamation Team. Soon, it attracted tens of thousands of fans. As they had experience in the entertainment industry, they split up the work and turned the anti-defamation team into a system. Some people were in charge of slandering her, some were in charge of collecting information, and some were in charge of organizing Tongning's achievements since her debut. All in all, their establishment meant a lot to Tongning. Because Tongning could feel that there were more and more people protecting her. At the same time, another big event took place on social media. The CEO of Hai Rui, Mo Ting, had opened his own social media page. In an instant, countless fans followed and left messages. By 7 p.m., the number of fans had exceeded hundreds of thousands. This was an extremely shocking statistic. The thing that the fans were most concerned about was the reason why Mo Ting had opened up this channel. However, at 8:19 p.m. that night, Mo Ting finally released a photo. It was a photo from the night of Hai Rui's celebration dinner. It was a photo of him leaving with Tongning on his back. In the photo, Tongning lay quietly on top of Mo Ting's body. Her eyes were sparkling as Mo Ting looked at her with his back facing her. His gaze was gentle like water. Of course, not only did he put up the photo, but he also said, "She only has me." These simple and powerful words were a response to Quan Yi's slandering of Tongning. But it had shaken the entire entertainment industry. Oh my god, am I dreaming? Seriously? CEO Mo actually came out and made it public? I am so excited, so excited. I believe in love again. I love this couple so much. Who else could make the big boss of the entertainment industry their manager and bed warmer? Tangning, you are amazing. So, this is the highest standard of PR at Hai Rui. Is he possessed by a wife-protecting demon? I suddenly feel like the spoilt heir is quite funny. It's so strange. Their social status is so far apart, yet I feel like they are compatible. Although I really want to ask about LM's wedding ring commercial and Feng Cai's interview, after seeing this post, I feel like the past is no longer important. I am going to dig up the little details of their love life. No one can stop me. Tangning. Tangning, come out and show your face. I want to be in the same frame. I want to be in the same frame. Of course, Tangning had no way of satisfying her fans' requests. After all, she had no idea what was going on. Long Jie had browsed through the news and found Mo Ting's homepage. Only then did she explode in anger as she gave Tangning a phone call. Tangning. Tangning. What is it? Tangning felt helpless towards the alarmed Long Jie. Boss has revealed your relationship. Did you guys plan this beforehand? Long Jie's fingers trembled in excitement. What do you mean? Wait a minute. After speaking, Long Jie sent Mo Ting's homepage to Tangning. I am so excited, really. Tangning remained on the phone as she clicked on the link Long Jie had sent her. After jumping to the homepage, she saw a photo of her and Mo Ting. Most importantly, the time of the announcement was 8:19 p.m. It turned out, Mo Ting had been at the office so late because of this. Tangning, did you see this? Boss has announced to the entire world that he has placed a label on you. Ha ha ha, he's not afraid of another Quan Yi appearing. He's revealed it. I'm going to look for Lu Che to open a bottle of red wine. After hearing this, Tangning let out a laugh. She didn't know why, but every time something good happened to her, Long Jie was more excited than anyone else. In fact, she was even more excited than she was. By the way, has boss returned home? Not yet, Tangning replied. Hurry and go look for him. What are you still doing at home? Hurry, I'm going to hang up. After putting down her phone, Tangning grabbed her jacket and handbag and left the house. On the way to Hai Rui, she gave Mo Ting a phone call. However, Mo Ting wasn't at Hai Rui. I'm downstairs at Hai Rui. Where are you? I'm at the hospital, Mo Ting replied. Elder Quan is in the hospital. Then, Star King sent someone to invite him. His condition isn't light. Plus, it has something to do with Star King's internal conflict. I will be home late. You should go home and get some rest, Mo Ting instructed. Will he be okay? Tangning asked nervously. After all, there were so many people at Star King, yet Father Quan was asking Mo Ting to accompany him. This was a little unreasonable. He'll be fine. I've seen the announcement. Tangning relaxed as she said to Mo Ting. I originally wanted to wait until you got home, but since I've already called you, I thought I'd tell you in advance that I'm very happy. Mrs. Mo, the reason I did this was to make you happy, Mo Ting said. In a situation like that, I won't go look for you. I don't want to be a burden to you. Come home early, I'll wait for you. Although Tangning sounded generous, her heart was still filled with worry. Chapter 298. Father Quan was seriously ill. After entering the hospital, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer. After waking up from his hospital bed, the first thing Father Quan did was ask his secretary to call a lawyer and send someone to Hai Rui to invite Mo Ting. As soon as the people from Star King heard about this, they all rushed to the hospital. Some told Father Quan to take care of himself while others told him to give up his management rights. These people had always been ambitious. Father Quan was agitated as his stomach pain worsened. After seeing this, his secretary asked if he should contact Quan Yi. Father Quan waved his hand weakly. At this moment, he didn't want Quan Yi to see his current state. Inside the hospital room, a few shareholders were trying to convince Father Quan to give up his shares. At least, it was better than giving it to Quan Yi. However, Father Quan held on tightly without saying a word. His old face was filled with stubbornness and regret. If only his education towards Quan Yi hadn't failed so badly, if only. If only he had placed more focus on educating his son, would things have been different today? Director Kwan, for the sake of the bigger picture, you should agree and give up your management rights. If you hand Star King over to Kwan Yi, we won't be able to rest easy. I'm not dead yet, Father Kwan replied in a raspy voice. That's not what we meant. A moment later, Mo Ting entered the hospital room under the protection of his bodyguards. As soon as the shareholders saw Mo Ting, they couldn't help but ask cautiously, President Mo, what are you doing here? I invited President Mo here. Father Kwan gestured for his secretary to help him up as he gestured for his lawyer to walk over. I single-handedly created Star King. It's true that I can't hand it over to my son because he is too disappointing. But I won't hand it over to you either. In order to protect Star King, I have decided to sell all my shares to Hai Rui and make Star King a part of Hai Rui. Before Mo Ting sat down, Father Kwan retrieved a contract from his lawyer and handed it to Mo Ting. I know you are the only one that can make Star King stronger. So, Mo Ting, I am willing to sell my shares at the lowest price on the market. I wonder if you are interested. My only condition is don't fire a single person from Star King. Mo Ting received the contract and casually flipped through a few pages. He suddenly felt Father Kwan's stubbornness towards Star King. He would rather hand it over to an outsider than let his own people ruin it. Where is your son? I didn't let him down. He has to walk his own path in the future. Father Kwan held back his tears as he shook his head. He knew that if Star King was handed to Kwan Yi, it would eventually end up in Mo Ting's hands. Rather than let the Star Emperor suffer a great loss, it was better for him to hand it over now. At least in this way, he could rest assured. I am a businessman. I have no reason to reject an opportunity like this, Mo Ting replied. President Mo, I don't think this is appropriate, Star King's people immediately objected. I'm paying, and old Kwan is selling his shares. What's wrong with that? Mo Ting asked, or are you saying that you all want the right to manage Star King? Don't tell me, as the CEO of Hai Rui, that I can't control Star King. Sensing Mo Ting's power, the old men hoped that the spoilt heir would step out and stop them. But Kwan Yi was still hiding on the yacht with no intention of returning to Beijing. President Mo, from now on, Star King will be in your hands. Elder Kwan, as long as you don't regret it. Father Kwan simply needed Mo Ting to take over. Regardless of whether Mo Ting wanted to continue maintaining the modeling agency or make a transition, Father Kwan knew that Mo Ting would be able to make Star King even more glorious. So, he wasn't worried at all. What a pity. I'm worried about my son, but I can't take care of him forever. After hearing this, Mo Ting was speechless for quite some time. He was already married, so to a certain extent, he could understand how Father Kwan felt. After all, he was going to be a father one day. Elder Kwan, take care of yourself. Star Emperor, I'll leave it to you. Father Kwan said solemnly. So, on that day, several big events happened in the entertainment industry. First it was Hai Rui's PR, then it was Mo Ting's announcement of his relationship, and now there was a rumor that Hai Rui was about to acquire Star King. Hai Rui acquiring Star King. All of a sudden, the staff at Star King became restless. At this time, Father Kwan instructed his secretary to pass on his message. Mo Ting agreed not to change the internal structure of Star King and not to fire a single employee. If that was the case, was Star King really going to fall under Hai Rui? It didn't take long before the spoilt heir Kwan Yi received news from his friend and rushed straight to the hospital. At this time, Hai Rui and Star King's lawyers were in the middle of handling the paperwork. Kwan Yi's eyes turned red as he pounced forward, but he was stopped by Mo Ting's bodyguards. Mo Ting, if you want revenge, come at me. Don't touch Star King and don't touch my father. If you were this sensible from the start, Star King wouldn't need to be in the hands of an outsider like me, Mo Ting retorted coldly. Over the years, have you made any contributions to Star King? Kwan Yi breathed heavily as he clenched his fists. From today onwards, you are no longer the heir to Star King. Kwan Yi looked at Father Kwan in disbelief. However, Father Kwan's face was pale as he handed a signed contract to Mo Ting. Mo Ting, from now on, I'll leave it to you. Dad, would you rather give Imperial Star to an outsider than give it to me? There are so many people in Imperial Star that need to be fed. People like you who only know how to eat, drink, and have fun can't feed them. Father Kwan said stiffly, so, it's a father's fault for not teaching his children. Right now, I'm suffering retribution. I'll leave first. You and your son can catch up slowly. After receiving the contract, Mo Ting prepared to leave. However, Kuan Yi pulled out a military dagger from his pocket and stabbed him in the stomach. Everyone was dumbfounded. Luckily, Mo Ting had quick reflexes and dodged in time. As a result, he only suffered a superficial wound on his waist. Although there was blood, it wasn't serious. Mo Ting's bodyguards immediately pinned Kuan Yi to the ground. Behave yourself. Father Kuan was agitated as he once again fainted from the pain. Meanwhile, Kuan Yi lay on the floor and yelled angrily, "If you have the ability, kill me too. You think too highly of yourself." Mo Ting held onto the left side of his stomach as he knelt down in front of Kuan Yi. "After losing the protection of your father and Star King, let's see how you'll survive in Beijing." After speaking, Mo Ting stood up. As soon as Lu Che saw Mo Ting holding onto his stomach, he immediately ran over and asked, "President? Is it serious? Do you want to go to the hospital?" "Don't tell Tongning." Lu Che was a little embarrassed, but he still said to Mo Ting, "I'm sorry, President. I've already given the madam a phone call. She's already on her way here. So, you should be good and go get your wound bandaged." Chapter 299. Thinking about Tongning's reaction when he caught a cold and had a headache, Mo Ting nodded his head. As for Kuan Yi, there's no need to call the police. Lu Che looked at the dazed Kuan Yi lying on the floor. He had no interest in stomping on him. He simply walked in front of Mo Ting and quickly called for a surgeon. Luckily, it was only a light wound. After a simple bandage, it was not a big problem. But Tongning was truly shocked. She rushed straight to the hospital without even putting on a disguise. She directly approached the front desk and asked for Mo Ting's whereabouts. Luckily, Mo Ting understood her well enough to wait for her on the first floor. As soon as she appeared, he immediately asked Lu Che to bring her over. "Was that Tongning?" "I think so." The person she was talking to was President Mo. The nurses noticed the two and secretly pulled out their phones to take pictures of them. Tongning couldn't care less as she approached Mo Ting and asked, "Where are you hurt?" "My clothes are thick. It's just a small scratch," Mo Ting replied. "Then, I still want to see it." To avoid being surrounded by onlookers, Mo Ting led Tongning to a quiet room. He then sat on the bed, removed his coat and pulled up his suit and shirt. "It's really just a small injury." The left side of Mo Ting's abdomen was wrapped in bandages. Although it was slightly red, it was indeed a small injury. Tongning let out a sigh of relief before she knelt down and helped Mo Ting put on his clothes. "Did you know that you scared me to death?" "It's fine now." Mo Ting held on to Tongning and comforted her as he hugged her. "What the hell is going on?" Mo Ting sat up straight. Just as he was about to explain the complicated situation, Lu Che suddenly knocked on the door and said, "President, Chairman Quan just passed away." Mo Ting immediately stood up and opened the door to look at Lu Che. Lu Che explained, "It turns out, not only did he have stomach cancer, he also had a brain hemorrhage. After all, he knew second uncle." "Tongning, let's go have a look," Mo Ting said as he turned around. No matter how many grudges they had in the past, at this moment, the deceased was the most important. Tongning nodded her head and walked over to Mo Ting's side. The two returned to Elder Kwan's room. At this time, the atmosphere inside was filled with sadness. Kuan Yi still wanted to step forward and grab onto Mo Ting's shirt, but the bodyguards quickly pulled him away. "Mo Ting, are you satisfied? My dad's dead. Are you happy now?" Tongning looked at Kuan Yi's angry expression and widened eyes and said, "What's there to be happy about? Aren't you the one that wants him dead? What nonsense are you talking about? Then do you know that Elder Kwan has stomach cancer?" Tongning asked sharply, "If you didn't want him to die a long time ago, would you still be fooling around all day? You clearly know that he doesn't have any helpers by his side, but you still didn't take up the responsibility that a son should have. You did all kinds of things that crossed the line and stimulated his nerves. If this isn't wishing for him to die early, then what is?" Why is your father willing to give Star King to Mo Ting? It's because he knows his son can't handle the responsibility of taking care of Star King. He doesn't want his life's work to go to waste. Just wait and see. Without your father, who would even spare a glance at you? Tang Ning's tone was harsh, but it was the truth. These words were like long silver needles stabbing into his heart. Of course, there was also another reason. Mo Ting had mysteriously received an injury. If Mo Ting hadn't reacted quickly enough, he would have been lying in bed by now. Quan Yi had no way to refute. He simply turned around and propped himself up on the bed as he took a few more glances at his father. He then took heavy steps towards Mo Ting and said, "I will definitely take Star King back from your hands, and I will do it fair and square. I'll wait for you." After saying these words, Mo Ting also bowed towards Father Quan's body before turning around and leaving with Tang Ning. On the way home, Mo Ting looked at the woman beside him and gently rubbed her shoulder. "I originally wanted to give you a surprise today, but I ended up giving you a scare." "Did you really buy Star King?" "Yes, I bought the Quan family's shares. Of course, I am now the biggest shareholder of Star King." Mo Ting couldn't deny this. "You also have 15% of your share in the business. It's our shared assets. You know I don't care about things like that." Tang Ning didn't care. "But I remember Star King once blacklisted you." This was one of the reasons why Mo Ting insisted on buying the shares. At least, it could erase one of Tang Ning's unhappy memories, so it was worth it. Tang Ning leaned against Mo Ting's body, not daring to use too much force. Even though it was only a small wound, she was still careful. Late at night, inside a quiet house in the suburbs, a few computers sat in the damp living room. Meanwhile, the staff sitting in front of the computers had a worried look on their faces. They had spent so much effort and collected so much information, yet, in the end, Mo Ting beat them to it by announcing their relationship. With the addition of Quan Yi's interference, the majority of the public opinion was now on Tang Ning's side. It wasn't a good time to expose any more scandals about Tang Ning. Even if they did, Hai Rui could easily handle the PR editor Lin. "What should we do now? We've already missed the best opportunity. Announcing our relationship isn't like announcing our marriage." Editor Lin waved her hand to stop the others from speaking. "What kind of person is Mo Ting? He's the CEO of Hai Rui. How long can he focus on liking someone? Look at the male artists that change their women every few days. Don't tell me Mo Ting can't compare to them. But what does this have to do with us? He'll just play with her for a few days. Once he gets bored, he'll just throw her away. Let's wait and see. Who told us to miss the best opportunity?" Lin Chong sighed regretfully. "Let's take advantage of this opportunity to go out and write some other news." Because they had been constantly spending money without any income, Hua Rong Studio was already running over capacity. But finding news. What news could be more shocking than Mo Ting's public announcement of his relationship with Tang Ning? Just as the reporters were worrying about exposing Tang Ning, Lin Chong suddenly received a secret guest. He didn't know how the man found him. All he knew was, in the dark car, the man handed him a check. "I know you are the reporters from Hua Rong Studio that Fang Yu had been searching for so long. I'm here today because I have something to ask of you." Lin Chong used the dim light to see the numbers on the check and asked, "What is it?" "I want to take over Hai Rui. So, I hope you can cooperate with me and work for me. The reason is simple. You are good at following people and you will never betray me because of Mo Ting." Chapter 300. Take over Hai Rui. Lin Chong scoffed before replying, "Although I don't want to admit it, Mo Ting is an outstanding leader. This is something that no one can deny. Plus, because of Mo Ting's existence, he can at least correct the unhealthy tendencies in the entertainment industry. But, without Mo Ting, Hai Rui will simply be an entertainment company. The entertainment industry has always been about chasing after fame and fortune. Haven't you been following Tang Ning for fame and fortune as well?" The man scoffed as he pointed out Lin Chong's hypocrisy. The man pointed out Lin Chong's hypocrisy in a deep and incisive voice. "The entertainment industry I want is prosperous and competitive, not like Mo Ting, where everyone abides by their duties. Plus, did you really think that Mo Ting is fair and just? At least when it comes to Tongning, he is no longer the Mo Ting of the past. I need some time to think about it. Lin Chong handed the check back to the man. After all, I will be going against Mo Ting. I need to weigh the pros and cons up to you, the man replied nonchalantly. But, don't blame me for not warning you. On the day that I take over Hai Rui, there will be no place for you in Beijing. Lin Chong wasn't stupid. Of course, he wasn't going to be scared by a few words. But, now was indeed not the best time to deal with Tongning. After all, she had already been labeled as Mo Ting's woman. Plus, Hai Rui had just calmed down a mess. By the time the car arrived at Hyatt Regency, it was already midnight. The couple entered the house in silence. As soon as Tongning turned on the lights, Mo Ting stretched out his arms and hugged her. He then whispered in her ear, "Let me hug you like this for a little while." Tongning did not say a word. She simply felt that sometimes, Mo Ting's shoulders were so heavy that it made her heart ache. Taking over Star King did not make him happy. After all, it had never been Mo Ting's ambition. "In front of me, you can be fragile," Tongning said as she gently stroked Mo Ting's back. "When you need me, I will be your most reliable shoulder to lean on. I can't believe Elder Quan died all alone. I suddenly feel scared. If you hadn't appeared by my side, perhaps, I would have ended up the same way. I would have died all alone." Tongning could feel Mo Ting's hands tightening around her. So, she removed his jacket and snuggled into his embrace. "So loneliness is so scary. You're too tired. Let's take a shower and get some sleep." Tongning finally turned on the lights, held onto Mo Ting's hand and returned to the bedroom with him. While she was helping Mo Ting run the water, she suddenly thought of a problem. She had always been clear about her goal. She had her own dream, to become an international supermodel. But Mo Ting? She had never heard him mention it before. Every day, other than being busy planning how to make others famous, he had never thought about himself. In fact, he had never done anything for himself. "What are you thinking about?" Mo Ting asked in a low voice as he entered the bathroom to find Tongning in a daze. "I was thinking, is becoming the CEO of Hai Rui your dream?" Tongning turned her head and replied. Mo Ting removed his robe and froze on the spot. After entering the bathtub, he shook his head. "No. What's that?" Being a scriptwriter, Mo Ting laughed as he waved at Tongning. "Come in." Tongning smiled as she also removed her robe and entered the bathtub. She then laid her head on top of Mo Ting's chest. Of course, before she did this, she took a look at the wound on Mo Ting's waist. "I'll bandage it up for you in a moment." Mo Ting had achieved many people's dreams, but no one knew what he truly wanted. Tongning's guess was correct. Stupid definitely had something to do with Mo Ting. When she first heard Mo Ting tell the story, she could sense that Mo Ting's expression was completely different than when he was talking about other things. "I haven't asked you yet. Have you already decided on the female lead for Stupid?" "Not yet," Mo Ting replied with his eyes closed. "I haven't found a suitable one." "Okay." Tongning responded with an okay and did not say anything else. After quite some time, she finally said to Mo Ting, "I want to look at the script." Mo Ting seemed to have fallen asleep, so Tongning thought he didn't hear her. But, just as the couple returned to the bedroom, Mo Ting suddenly pulled out a script from his drawer and handed it to Tongning. "Look at it when you have time." "It's too late right now." "Okay," Tongning nodded. "By the way, can you give me your account and password for your social media account? I want to look at your messages." Mo Ting pulled out his phone, logged in his account and password and handed it to Tongning. Tongning took a few glances at the phone before closing it and falling asleep with Mo Ting. But the next morning, Mo Ting's social media account once again exploded with activity. Tongning had left a message under his post. Of course, she was replying using Mo Ting's account, so it seemed like she was talking to herself. But the fans quickly understood. From the tone of the message, there was no doubt it was Tongning. "At that time, my heels were too thin and rubbed against my feet. Your president Mo told me to come up here and I'll carry you." The fans were fed a mouthful of dog food. Seeing the interaction between the couple so early in the morning, their mood improved. "I don't care. I'm going to be infatuated with a CP like this for the rest of my life." Tongning left a message at 1 a.m. What are they doing so late at night? Hey, 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 hey. Something big happened yesterday and someone saw them at the hospital. There are photos online of Tongning going to the hospital without any makeup on. It seems President Mo was injured. Huh? Injured? Is it serious? Harais, I really want to know about them, but I can't get any news from them. This feeling is so torturous. The fans below Mo Ting's account howled in pain. But they gave their blessings and had high hopes for the couple's relationship. According to the fans, the couple's mysterious relationship was definitely different from the hype created by other celebrities. It was obvious that the couple were going to spend the rest of their lives together. In reality, the internet had already uncovered a lot of details that showed the couple had been together for a long time. But Tongning did not use her relationship with Mo Ting to boost her status. This made many people believe that they were truly in love and that they weren't willing to waste their time on each other. In fact, fans even went to ask the so-called entertainment industry bloggers. At this time, the entertainment industry blogger replied to his fans, within the industry, their relationship is already semi-public. Just by looking at President Mo's attitude, you can tell that it is true love. Tongning also loves President Mo. They are not putting on a show, it is as you can see. Bloggers have high hopes for this couple. If you don't believe me, I can swear that after 10 years, they will still be together and in love. Chapter 301. Over the next few days, Mo Ting began to work on Star King's acquisition. Tongning didn't want him to be too tired, so she put her own work on hold and handed all the domestic deals to Long Jie. Fearless sent a message from France, telling Tongning to be the first to see the costume designed based on the female lead of Stupid. As soon as Tongning saw the costume, she suddenly thought of the character of the female lead. The female lead had never been educated. While she was washing dishes in a restaurant, she was discovered by a talent scout. After her debut, she lost control of her temper and was banned. But, because of a wealthy businessman, she returned to the film industry and dominated the title of Best Actress for 30 years. As for the male lead of Stupid, when she was offered a sugar daddy by a wealthy businessman, she didn't want to give her first time to a sugar daddy. So, she went to look for the male lead's father, a talented athlete, and had a one-night stand. On the surface, the character appeared to be willful her entire life, but in reality, her heart was filled with vicissitudes and complex emotions. Especially when she saw the costume designed by Fearless, Tongning suddenly felt like the character had come to life. The female lead didn't have a lot of lines. So, whenever Tongning had nothing to do, she would memorize them at home. Sometimes, she would even practice in front of the mirror. One time, she was discovered by Long Jie, who was reporting to her. "What are you doing?" "Nothing," Tongning replied calmly as she closed the script. Long Jie walked up to Tongning relentlessly. However, she noticed Tongning was actually reading her script. Was she looking at the mirror, planning to change her style? "Do you want to act?" "Me? How could that be possible? I'm not from an acting school and have no foundation in acting." Tongning shook her head. Tongning shook her head. The only reason she was practicing in front of the mirror was because she was very interested in this character. "You underestimate yourself." Long Jie waved her hand and sat down beside Tongning. "But I'm here today because of this." Long Jie handed the invitation card to Tongning. "It's a Chanel perfume dinner. I've already rejected all the other unknown brands." "Okay," Tongning nodded. "Tongning, all the people looking for you these days are big names." "I'm so happy," Long Jie yelled excitedly as she pounced into Tongning's arms. "Especially after your relationship with Boss was revealed, there's already a long queue of people inviting the two of you to share a stage. Be honest, have you been trying to lose weight lately?" Tongning felt Long Jie had lost some weight. "I can't hide this from you. When I wasn't working with you, I went to fitness classes a few times. Not bad, right? Is it effective?" Long Jie stood up and spun around a few times. Tongning cleared her throat. When it came to Long Jie's tummy. "Why do you suddenly want to lose weight? Isn't it good to be a little fatter? You have to be plump to look good. Every time." Long Jie's face turned a little red as she returned to Tong Ning's side and whispered, "Every time we go to Lu Che's home, we kiss until the sky turns dark. Then, he suddenly goes to sleep on the sofa with a pained expression. It's probably because of my figure." "Don't you know why he looks like he's in pain?" Tong Ning asked. "But I still want to be a little thinner." Which woman doesn't want to be perfect in front of the person they love? "I don't think he'll mind. After all, he's already seen it." In reality, Long Jie could only be considered voluptuous, but that was how she wanted to look. Plus, your relationship can be considered stable. "When will you settle down? How can it be so soon?" Long Jie asked. But, thinking about how Tong Ning and Mo Ting got married as soon as they met, she couldn't help but laugh. "What I mean is, I want to enjoy my freedom for a little longer." "Enough talking. I've already given you the invitation card. The time is 7 p.m. tomorrow at Gold Hotels. I will pick you up at 6 p.m. After speaking, Long Jie stood up and said to Tong Ning, "Lu Che wants to go to a dessert shop on the west side of the city. I will go buy it for him right now. Go ahead. Be careful on the road." A woman in love really couldn't be messed with. As she watched Long Jie leave, Tong Ning shook her head. The shop only sold 100 desserts a day. If she went at this time, she wasn't sure if there would be any left. Thinking about how many times Lu Che had mentioned it, Long Jie couldn't help but speed up. At this time, an old lady with a dog suddenly crossed the road. Long Jie was so scared that she immediately swerved and crashed into the side of the road. Long Jie's head smashed into the car window. After a moment of dizziness, she directly fainted. When she woke up again, she was at the hospital. Lu Che stood in front of the hospital bed discussing her injuries with the doctor. A moment later, the doctor left. Lu Che leaned over and asked, "Are you awake? Do you feel unwell anywhere?" Long Jie shook her head. "Do you know how busy I've been over the past few days? Did I waste your time? Not only have you been busy, I was also scared half to death by you." Lu Che couldn't help but sigh. "You're not usually this impatient. I wanted to buy you desserts, but I was afraid the shop would close," Long Jie explained. "You've mentioned it a few times already. I know you've been running around starking over the past few days and haven't had much rest. I simply wanted to cheer you up a little." Lu Che let out a gentle laugh. All of a sudden, he no longer felt tired. "I often mentioned desserts to you because I wanted to tempt you not to go on a diet. It wasn't because I wanted to eat them." Long Jie. "So, I was the one who asked for the accident." "Not really," Lu Che leaned over and whispered in Long Jie's ear, "At least it gave me half a day off." Long Jie threw a punch at him, but Lu Che caught her fist. "Little fatty, let's go home." "Okay." Lu Che helped Long Jie up from the bed. At this time, the old lady that caused Long Jie's car accident appeared in the hospital room with a dog on her leash. She apologized to Long Jie. "I'm sorry, young lady. I'm getting old and can no longer hold this dog." "I'm fine too," Long Jie quickly replied. "Don't take it to heart. I've already paid for your medical fees. It's best to have a clear conscience. But, I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of this dog anymore." Long Jie looked at the old lady's wrinkled hands. It was indeed difficult to take care of a large dog, so she suggested, "Why don't you let me take care of it instead?" Lu Che was helpless against Long Jie. The two obviously didn't have much time, but he couldn't bear to hurt Long Jie's enthusiasm. In reality, this was the Long man in his heart. No matter what she experienced, no matter what the outside world was like, she was always curious and passionate about the world. So, in the end, the couple took the dog home. But, after returning home, Long Jie began to worry. "We should buy a kennel. If it sleeps on your sofa tonight, where will you sleep?" Lu Che hooked his arm around her shoulder and led her into the bedroom. "Tonight, I'll sleep on the bed." Long Jie nervously crossed her arms in front of her chest. "You're not allowed to have sex before marriage." "What if you're the one that wants to sleep with me?" Lu Che teased. Honestly, during this period of time, Lu Che had become a lot more enlightened. Long Jie couldn't help but lower her head. In reality, she really wanted to. She was already 30 years old, yet she still acted like an 18-year-old girl. They were both adults, but she couldn't just slap herself in the face and ask him to sleep with her. Chapter 302. After showering, Long Jie nervously lay in bed, researching how to raise a dog. Meanwhile, Lu Che, who was lying beside her, was working on his laptop with his hair dripping wet. Long Jie leaned in closer to have a look. It was filled with reports about Star King. Lu Che turned and looked at her. "Can you understand it?" Long Jie shook her head. "Boss, after taking over Star King, will you change the way Star King operates? Star King will not be merged into Hai Rui. Star King was bought using the CEO's personal assets. Plus, before Star King could make a move, Elder Quan got into an accident. So, Star King does not need to make any big changes at the moment. Does that mean boss will be more tired from now on?" "Probably." Lu Che nodded. After speaking, he turned off his laptop and grabbed a towel to dry his hair. Long Jie's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Lu Che had already finished his work. Were they really going to have a chat under the covers? That would be too naive and a waste of an opportunity. But she didn't want to sleep with a man like this. After drying his hair, Lu Che returned to the bedroom. Seeing Long Jie nervous, he turned off the bedside lamp. Long Jie let out a sigh of relief. However, Lu Che laughed. "When you had a crush on me, didn't you take every opportunity to get close to me? Am I no longer attractive to you?" Long Jie turned off her laptop and looked shyly at Lu Che's body as she covered her eyes. "Weren't you the same when you had a crush on me? That's why I took every opportunity to kiss and hug you." Lu Che threw away the pillow and propped himself up to lie down. Seeing Long Jie covering her eyes with her hands, he couldn't help but mock. "If you want to look, then look openly. Once Star King's business officially starts, I may end up sleeping in the office. You won't be able to look even if you want to." Hearing Lu Che's words, Long Jie suddenly lay down on top of Lu Che's body. "Then, I should take the opportunity to hug you a little more. Don't hug me too tightly, I might lose control." Lu Che's voice was a lot lower. "Forget it, not when facing a body like mine." Lu Che's eyes darkened as he flipped over and pressed Long Jie under his body. "Hey, we agreed. But I really don't have any self-control when it comes to you." After speaking, Lu Che's kiss landed on her lips. As he kissed her, he said to Long Jie, "You're already 30, are you planning to save your first time until you're 31? "I don't want to." Long Jie shook her head. After being kissed by Lu Che, she was so dizzy she even forgot her surname. "Then I want you tonight. What can you do?" Long Jie's eyes grew wide. She suddenly realized, Lu Che, who was still a primary school student just a few days ago, was suddenly about to graduate from university. I, don't be nervous. It's no big deal. We'll register tomorrow. Aren't you afraid of regretting it?" Long Jie suddenly relaxed. Deep down, she still felt a sense of inferiority. But Lu Che didn't mind. "We haven't been together for long and haven't experienced much. What if you meet someone better in the future, what would you do? You are the best. But what if your parents don't like me in the future?" This was Long Jie's biggest worry. Lu Che couldn't understand this. "I'm the one you're spending the rest of your life with, not my parents." As soon as Long Jie heard this, her face turned red as she turned her head. In that case, be gentle. I'm also new." Lu Che laughed. "What should I do?" Lu Che gently lifted Long Jie's robe and leaned over. "Tomorrow, let's register our marriage. I can't wait anymore. I want to live with you officially and do whatever I want with you." Luckily, they were both invisible and weren't affected by the industry. Even when it came to registering their marriage, they didn't need to worry about the media. Long Jie almost suffocated from the kiss. Lu Che lifted her hands above her head and intertwined his fingers. But, even though they were already naked in front of each other, he still did not take the final step. "After we register our marriage, I won't let you go." Long Jie's face turned red as she snuggled into Lu Che's embrace. All of a sudden, she felt Lu Che was more manly than anyone else. After all, not everyone could stop at a time like this. Of course, she had no idea, Mo Ting was also part of the team. In the middle of the night, the big golden retriever that they brought home suddenly started barking. Long Jie was afraid it would wake Lu Che up, so she quickly climbed out of bed and sat down with the dog. She then pulled out some canned food from the fridge and opened it for the dog. Shish. Be quiet, don't wake him up. In reality, Lu Che was already awake. He simply looked at Long Jie from behind as he crossed his arms and smiled. Silly girl. After daybreak, at Hua Rong Studio. Because he had spent too much money over the past few days, Lin Chong was currently worrying about cash flow. He could continue to carry on, but what about the staff he hired? Including Charlene, she was completely different from what he had originally promised. Editor Lin, from the time I started working, you haven't given me a single cent of my salary. My child is about to be born, I need this money. Editor Lin, although I don't have a child, I'm running out of money myself. Chong Lin looked at his reporters and let out a sigh. He then said to everyone, give me some time, I will definitely pay you all your salaries. Okay then, I'll wait a little longer. The young reporter left Editor Lin's office dejectedly. After thinking for a moment, Editor Lin finally pulled out the mysterious man's contact details and gave him a phone call. I agree to help you. As soon as the man heard this, he laughed. Wouldn't it have been better if you had agreed from the start? In that case, let's meet up and discuss in detail. Okay. Since he had decided to sell it, Lin Chong didn't plan to hide it anymore. He pulled out all the evidence he had collected and handed it to the man to see if he could use it in other situations. It had to be said, Tong Ning's luck was really good this time. But, from now on, she might not be so lucky with everything. Meanwhile, Tong Ning had no idea that Long Jie and Lu Che had gone to register their marriage. She simply focused on preparing for the Chanel perfume dinner. Over the past 2 days, Mo Ting had been too busy, so she simply mentioned the dinner to him. She didn't want to distract him. In reality, she had already considered getting someone else to be her manager. But, Mo Ting immediately gave up on the idea. I can't trust someone else to manage you. Tong Ning had no choice but to compromise. In that case, I'll go to the Chanel dinner on my own. If anything unexpected happens, give me a call. With Tong Ning's current status, no one would dare to cause trouble for her. But, when she actually arrived at the dinner, the situation was completely different from what she imagined. Chapter 303. There will be plenty of actors and celebrities attending Chanel's gala tonight. But, with your current popularity, I don't think you lose out to any of them. On the way to the gala, Long Jie knelt down in front of Tong Ning and helped her tidy up her dress. However, Tong Ning noticed that Long Jie had also dressed up a little. By the time the gala ends, it will be around 11 p.m. Will you still be going on a date with Lu Che? Long Jie smiled mysteriously with a proud expression. Yes, can't I? In that case, you should leave early. Ting will come pick me up later. Tong Ning said as she held onto her handbag. We're almost there. Hurry and get ready. This is the first time you and Boss have appeared together in public. Do you think the media will let you off? Long Jie tidied up Tong Ning's silver dress. After the van stopped, she finally opened the door. Celebrities walked down the red carpet one after another. By this time, Tong Ning had already gotten used to the dark cameras and flashing lights. Even without Mo Ting by her side, her brilliance was still irresistible. Look, the person walking down the red carpet is our Tong Ning. Her silver dress really complements her elegant and noble aura. Let's welcome Tong Ning. They were in a 5-star hotel, so the red carpet wasn't long. It was only a few meters long. Afterwards, Tong Ning approached the autograph wall and signed her name to the cameras. She then handed the pen in her hand back to the host. Once again, let's welcome Tong Ning. Please enter the venue. The luxurious hotel lobby was decorated with pink and champagne-colored roses. Below the stage, the names of the guests were written on the seats and bracelets made out of fresh flowers were placed on the seats. Tong Ning sat in her seat. On her left was the popular A-list actress, Jiang Yun. However, she had already married into a wealthy family. On her right, the person hadn't arrived yet. However, she wasn't from the entertainment industry. Her name was Kai Xinyan. Jiang Yun arrived first. Her aura was outstanding. If Tong Ning was described as cold, then Jiang Yun had a hint of otherworldly aura. Tongning nodded politely at the man, and the man smiled back. At this time, the guest on Tongning's right finally arrived. Tongning and Jiang Yun turned their heads and looked to their right. The guest on the right obviously didn't expect to see Tongning. Tongning could see the surprise in the guest's eyes. But, from what she could remember, they didn't seem to know each other. "Miss Tongning, I am a fan of yours." Kai Xinyan stretched out her hand and revealed an impeccable smile. Of course, she wasn't someone from the entertainment industry because that would lower her level. She was the heiress of a tycoon. How could she possibly be an exposed actress? She was the heiress of a tycoon. How could she possibly be an actress? Tongning couldn't see any kindness in the woman's eyes. But it wasn't to the point of becoming enemies. So, Tongning stretched out her hand, grabbed onto the woman's slender hand and shook it gently. Afterwards, the man quickly pulled his hand away as Tongning furrowed her brows. Kai Xinyan maintained her polite smile as she stood up and excused herself to go to the bathroom. Tongning was a little confused. At this time, a clear voice drifted into her ears. "This Kai Xinyan is the heiress of GJ Corporation. She has a high opinion of herself and doesn't like to interact with women from the entertainment industry. After shaking hands with you a moment ago, she is now going to wash her hands." Tongning turned and looked at Jiang Yun. She nodded her head to show that she didn't mind. She comes from a higher status, so it's understandable. "I remember that you also come from a century-old perfume family. In terms of background, you may not be better than her." With the mention of the Tang family, Tongning's expression turned even colder. In fact, her voice sounded a little cold. "I am just a model." Jiang Yun smiled without saying a word. At a place like this, they were just talking to each other. After all, they were all from different agencies. Who would want to be honest with them? A moment later, Kai Xinyan returned to her seat. At this time, the distance that Tongning emitted was getting stronger. At times like this, she was usually telling people to stay away. However, Kai Xinyan's gaze was too intense. Every now and then, it would land on Tongning, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. Halfway through the dinner, Mo Ting suddenly gave her a phone call. Tongning glanced at the caller ID, stood up and headed to the bathroom with her phone. "Around what time will it be over? I'll come pick you up." "Around 11 p.m., Tongning replied. "Okay, I'll leave Hai Rui at 10:30 p.m. Tongning hung up the phone and returned to her seat. Afterwards, Kai Xinyan smiled and asked, "Is that President Mo?" Hearing Kai Xinyan's question, Tongning felt extremely uncomfortable. It was as if she and Mo Ting were very familiar with each other. "Please send my regards to President Mo." Tongning's gaze suddenly changed from polite to sharp. In fact, it even contained a hint of ridicule. "Miss Kai seems to have an inexplicable sense of hostility towards me. Go back and ask President Mo. He should know best." Kai Xinyan's "I'm his old love" expression made Tongning feel a little annoyed. But she was never one to show her emotions on her face. Of course, she couldn't possibly suspect Mo Ting just because of one sentence from Kai Xinyan. It was never her style to suffer a loss. Just as Jiang Yun thought Tongning was once again helpless against Kai Xinyan, Tongning suddenly pulled out her phone from her handbag and dialed Mo Ting's number right in front of the two. "Ting. Her." Mo Ting's voice sounded from the other end of the phone with a deep and charming tone. "Do you know Kai Xinyan?" Chapter 304. She knew better than anyone what kind of person Mo Ting was. "How can you not be angry?" "Why should I be angry?" Tongning asked. "In this industry, there are plenty of people that speak worse than you. Why should I care? In that case, what do you want from Mo Ting? Or perhaps, you have the self-awareness to know that you are just putting on an act, so you don't care." Words like this were extremely straightforward. Even Jiang Yun broke out in a cold sweat on Tongning's behalf. Although Mo Ting had revealed his relationship to Tongning, it was just as Kai Xinyan had said. In this industry, in the entertainment industry, simply revealing a relationship wouldn't bring Tongning much benefit. After all, there was always the possibility of a breakup. For the big boss of the entertainment industry, getting rid of a model was as easy as saying the word. It couldn't be any easier. To put it bluntly, in the eyes of the average person, actors were just entertainers. As for models, they weren't even worth mentioning. To put it bluntly, they were simply selling their bodies. Seeing Tangning did not respond, Kai Xinyan crossed her arms and said, "Originally, I had something urgent to attend to that day. But, it's already too late. There are plenty of people that are willing to marry me. But, why is President Mo's taste like this? It makes me feel like I'm not even comparable to a prostitute." From beginning to end, Tangning maintained a smile on her face. She did not put Kai Xinyan in her eyes at all. Jiang Yun thought Tangning was speechless because of the insults. But, looking at the expressions of the other artists at the table, Jiang Yun suddenly let out a gentle laugh. Kai Xinyan's words didn't just offend Tangning. Selling her body? The other female artists looked at Kai Xinyan like she was a joke. One of them even pretended to knock over the wine glass next to her, causing red wine to spill all over Kai Xinyan's body. "Sorry, Miss Kai, I'll help you clean it up." "No need, stay away from me." Kai Xinyan immediately stood up to avoid being touched and headed to the bathroom to clean up. Afterwards, a few female artists couldn't help but cross their arms and say, "Every time I see someone that acts like this, I can't help but want to slap them across the face." "Tangning, how do you hold it in?" Tangning picked up her glass and toasted the group, completely revealing her black-bellied nature. No matter how annoying a person was, there would always be someone who would use their actions to tell her why she had to do this. Jiang Yun lowered her head and let out a gentle laugh. Needless to say, Tangning's way of dealing with the situation was very beneficial to her. "I finally understand why out of so many women, you are the only one that can stand by Mo Ting's side." Tangning tilted her head and looked at Jiang Yun. She lowered her head and laughed. "Don't judge Mo Ting and I in the way you think. Tangning, we are all in this industry. No one is clean. If you're talking about what I did to Kai Xinyan, I never said that I'm a good person. My principle has always been that if people don't offend me, I won't offend them." After speaking, Tangning no longer spoke to anyone at the table. She knew, people with different goals couldn't make plans together. Afterwards, Kai Xinyan did not return to her seat. Afterwards, Tangning discovered she had gone to sit in the VIP section. The event lasted for a few hours. It wasn't a long time, but it wasn't short either. Finally, it was almost 11 p.m. At this time, Tangning received a phone call from Mo Ting. "I'm here." Tangning stood up and left the ballroom with everyone else. Meanwhile, Mo Ting's car was parked in front of the hotel, attracting a lot of attention and whistles. However, just as Tangning walked towards Mo Ting, Kai Xinyan also walked out the front door and approached Mo Ting. As Tangning boarded the car, she extended her hand towards Mo Ting. "Hello, President Mo." Just as Mo Ting opened the car door for Tangning, he saw Kai Xinyan's hand extended towards him. He did not immediately shake it. Instead, he glanced at Tangning calmly. However, Tangning said, "It's best if you don't shake it. After all, Miss Kai will eventually wash it off." Mo Ting immediately caught the main point in Tangning's words. However, he still extended his hand and shook Kai Xinyan's hand. However, he pulled out a pair of white gloves from his pocket and put them on. Kai Xinyan's expression was extremely ugly. Worst of all, after shaking her hand, Mo Ting directly threw the white gloves into the bin. Kai Xinyan held back her anger and once again provoked Tangning. "Sorry, I was late for August 19th. I didn't do it on purpose. That's why I switched to someone else 10 minutes later. It turns out Miss Kai was actually there." In other words, Mo Ting didn't want Kai Xinyan to think too highly of herself. "Plus, I'm sorry, I should have asked my assistant to apologize to you. Although I randomly picked you, I should have notified you beforehand so you wouldn't have to wait." This time, Kai Xinyan's face was completely red. She was so tempted to find a hole and hide in it. "Lastly, I hope Miss Kai can do things that are befitting of your identity next time. After all, this is the first time we've met." After speaking, Mo Ting gestured for Tangning to board the car and shut the door, leaving Kai Xinyan clenching her fists. She never imagined that her original plan to humiliate Tangning would end up being humiliated by Mo Ting. Of course, this also allowed the onlookers to witness Mo Ting's ability to pamper his wife. This Kai Sinyan is so annoying. Can you guys guess what she's referring to as an artist? It's a prostitute. What can we do? She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. Prostitutes like us can't compare. Seeing her being abused by President Mo just now, I was so happy. It was so cool. She even threw away her gloves. Stop looking. No matter how handsome she is, she will never be yours. Mo Ting ignored the looks of the onlookers as he led Tongning out of the hotel. However, halfway through the car, Mo Ting stopped the car and said, "Come sit in front." Tongning turned her head and ignored him. "Are you jealous?" At that time, grandfather was rushing me to get married. To stop him from worrying, I randomly picked someone from his list of socialites. It's that simple, Mo Ting explained. After all, before I met you, I didn't think it would make a difference who I spent the rest of my life with. Tongning turned her gaze back to Mo Ting. "A moment ago, Kai Sinyan said that with your family background, you would never marry me. Next time, bring your marriage certificate with you. If you come across a situation like this again, throw it at her face," Mo Ting said dotingly. She also said that I know very well how dirty a model can be. "Mrs. Mo, I'm sure you're telling on me." Mo Ting stretched out his hand and held on to Tongning. Only then did Tongning compromise and move from the back seat to the front passenger seat. "I've already helped you get revenge. Can we move on from this matter? I've offended another rich heiress. What should I do if she comes looking for trouble from now on?" Chapter 305. Since she's causing trouble for you, I'm causing trouble for her. Can we move on now? "Mrs. Mo." Mo Ting cleared his throat. In reality, this was the most ridiculous thing he had done in his 32 years. Luckily, Tongning had appeared at the time. Otherwise, if he had married Kai Sinyan, he would have been a divorcee by now. Actually, Tongning wasn't really angry. After all, there was nothing between her and Mo Ting. There was no need for a stranger to ruin their relationship. But Mo Ting let out a sudden laugh as he drove. Tongning furrowed her brows and looked at him confusedly. "What are you laughing at?" "I suddenly feel like you are very noble. You've saved my life." Mo Ting praised Tongning in seriousness. After hearing this, Tongning stretched out her hand and clasped onto Mo Ting's hand as she replied gently, "You've saved me even more." In reality, they were simply trying to redeem each other. At a red light, Mo Ting stopped the car and looked down at Tongning. Looking at her head resting on his shoulder, he only had one thought in his heart: "You have no idea how precious you are to me." Kai Sinyan suffered a lot at the Chanel perfume gala. As soon as she returned home, she went straight to Father Kai's study room. "Father." "Xiao Yang, what's wrong? Why is your face so pale?" Father Kai put down the documents in his hands and waved at his daughter. Kai Sinyan held back her grievances and explained everything that happened at the Chanel perfume gala. After hearing everything, Father Kai almost smashed the table in front of him. "How dare the Mo family treat my daughter like this? How could they allow a model to bully you?" "Father, I can't take this lying down." Because, every time Kai Sinyan thought about what Mo Ting had done to her, her eyes would turn red from embarrassment. "But, did you just say the model's surname is Tang?" Father Kai thought for a moment before saying to Kai Sinyan, "This Tongning seems to be the Tang family's granddaughter. I'll give them a phone call in a moment. If it turns out to be true, I will make sure Tongning gives us an explanation." "Father, are you saying that Tongning is the heiress of a perfume family?" "That's right. When you were young, you even visited the Tang family. Don't you remember? At that time, you even stole Tongning's sister's toys." After hearing her father's words, Kai Sinyan felt even more uncomfortable. Originally, she thought she was a cut above everyone else and could step all over Tongning at any time. After all, Tongning was just a model that sold her body. But, now that she found out Tongning was also a rich heiress, the feeling of being dragged down by Tongning was not a good one. Then why isn't she with the Tang family? I heard that he was kicked out of the Tang family. I'm not too sure about this. If you want to know, you should pay a visit to the Tang family. Kicked out. In other words, Tongning was merely a poor heiress. Kai Sinyan's heart finally calmed down. Then, please help me send a visiting card to the Tang family. Of course, outsiders had no idea why a rich heiress like Tongning insisted on becoming a model. However, the Tang family were well aware. If Kai Sinyan were to ask, would she be able to find out the real reason why Tongning left the Tang family? The child of a mistress took over. It should be very sensational, right? The cold wind howled as passers-by hurried around in their winter coats. Long Jie gazed at the night view of Beijing. However, as soon as she opened the window, Lu Che immediately shut it. Do you want to catch a cold? Long Jie turned around and saw Lu Che kneeling on the ground feeding his dog. The tall and sturdy man was squatting in front of the golden retriever. This scene was enough to melt a person's heart. Let's go back to the room. Lu Che stood up and waved at Long Jie. Long Jie couldn't help but laugh. Tonight was their wedding night. They did not tell anyone, only they knew. They simply took some time out for lunch and went to the civil affairs office to get their marriage certificate. Although it seemed a little rushed, Long Jie felt, this man was someone worth entrusting the rest of her life to. If she didn't hurry up and grab hold of him, she may end up regretting even more. The bedroom wasn't big, but it was decorated with the word happiness and the bedding had been changed to red. It symbolized the couple's future. Long Jie suddenly felt a strong sense of belonging. She was no longer on her own, she belonged to someone. You got married just for the sake of sex. You're too much. Although I won't deny that it was part of the reason, but I truly want to marry you. I've wanted to do it since the first day I got together with you. Lu Che hugged Long Jie and kissed her passionately. He then used his hands to untie her robe. Don't be nervous. I'm not nervous at all, Long Jie explained. Do you think I'm convincing? After hearing her stuttering explanation, Lu Che placed her on the bed. His tall and sturdy body leaned over her and he quickly removed the restraints on his body. Long Jie blushed as she covered her eyes and said in embarrassment, "Don't look at my carrot body." In reality, she simply had a bigger frame than the average girl. She couldn't really be considered fat. Plus, Lu Che liked her delicate and lively appearance. If Long Jie really slimmed down and ended up like the girls on the outside, he would feel it would be a waste. She was unique, there was no need for her to change. So, the more she resisted, the more Lu Che loved her. Long man, look at me. I don't want to. Lu Che did not look in front of her. He simply leaned over and kissed Long Jie on the lips. His kiss was gentle and lingering. This time, Long Jie quickly surrendered as she hooked her arms around Lu Che's neck. After the new year, we will go see your only relative. Chapter 306. After the Chanel perfume banquet, the media released photos of all the celebrities that attended. Of course, both male and female celebrities couldn't help but compete with each other and show off their abilities. As a model, when it came to fashion sense, she was definitely more eye-catching than actors and singers. However, the reporters did not forget that she had already announced her relationship with Mo Ting. Nor did they forget that Mo Ting was not only her boyfriend, he was also her personal manager. So, at the end of Tongning's photo, the media used a photo of Mo Ting and Tongning in the same frame. Of course, apart from the fact that Tongning was already eye-catching, Mo Ting's appearance made her stand out more than any other celebrity. However, there was also a small incident at the banquet, the handshake incident. After shaking hands with Tongning, a certain socialite actually complained that Tongning was dirty, so she went to the bathroom to wash her hands. In response, Mo Ting put on a pair of white gloves and threw them away after shaking hands with the socialite. Although the incident of Tongning being humiliated was only a rumor and had no way to verify it, the incident of Mo Ting throwing away his gloves was witnessed by countless celebrities and media. So this indirectly proved the truth of the incident. After all, Mo Ting was never a senseless person. He definitely wouldn't lower himself to the same level as a woman over a small matter, unless she was the one that was cheap enough to provoke Tongning. President Mo's boyfriend power is at the maximum. As a single person, I have received a huge blow. I'm done for. I just want to hear news about Tongning and Mo Ting every day. When I don't hear any news, I feel sad. But, as soon as I hear news, I smile like a fool. I beg the Mo couple to give us more candy. Is no one paying attention to the socialite that caused Tongning trouble? How noble does she think she is? Fart. President Mo did a great job. Please keep giving out candy at this rate. In reality, after Chanel's banquet ended, the media had no intention of letting Tongning go. But, Tongning slipped away too quickly and there were too many big celebrities around. So, even though the media felt it was a pity, they did not chase after Tongning. Over the past 2 days, the acquisition of Starking had finally come to an end. Meanwhile, in France, Tongning was notified to prepare for filming as soon as possible. Tongning watched as Mo Ting busied himself with work, but she did not ask him what he planned to do next. Until one night, Mo Ting handed Tongning a list of actresses. I've already put stupid on the agenda. The actresses are all here. We will hold a press conference next month. Tongning received the documents and flipped through a few pages. She realized the actors that Mo Ting had chosen were indeed impeccable. The actors on the list, whether it was in terms of acting skills, fame or mannerisms, were all top-notch. But, after looking through the list, Tongning furrowed her brows. Perhaps it was because she had read the script too many times, so the characters didn't fit. I keep feeling like something is missing. After hearing this, Mo Ting sat down beside Tongning and nodded his head. So you've noticed. The type of arrogance that others don't understand can easily be acted out, Tongning replied. But, perhaps you Shanshan can act out the role? Mo Ting thought for a moment before taking the documents from Tongning's hands. The flight to France has already been confirmed. It will be tomorrow afternoon. After that, you need to start preparing for Fashion Week. Seeing the tiredness in Mo Ting's eyes, Tongning's heart ached as she asked, is there anything I can do for you? Now that Star King is on track and preparations for Stupid are almost done, shouldn't you get some rest? Since I'm going to the shoot this time, accompany me and take it as a distraction. To be honest, the higher-ups at Hai Rui don't really approve of Stupid because it's too risky. Although they could use a top-notch director and actors, this film is too emotional and doesn't have high expectations. After hearing Mo Ting's words, Tongning understood that no one understood this better than Mo Ting. In an era where sex, fans, popularity and special effects were sold, a tight story without the elements of popular culture was not likely to be accepted by the public. This film can be a hit, Tongning said confidently. With your business acumen, there's no way you can't tell the audience for this film. In reality, the audience isn't attracted by the celebrity effect or special effects. They are simply looking forward to seeing a shocking story in the cinema, not special effects. The reason why you are hesitating is because this story was written by you. Mo Ting looked at Tongning in shock. I can honestly say that this story is amazing. You were able to move me, move Coke and move Fearless. Plus, we all belong to different groups of people. Isn't that enough to explain the problem? Even though, I don't understand why you're only willing to share this story now. Mo Ting admitted defeat. He had never mentioned this to anyone before, but Tongning was able to guess. So, he lifted his hand and gently touched Tongning's cheek. This is the script I wrote before I took over Hai Rui. In other words, this was Mo Ting's dream. It was strange. His dream wasn't to be an actor or a military officer, but to write a script. Trust me, a film with a theme like this will not only be popular in China. That's why I'm considering hiring an overseas actor for the role of the male lead's father. For the sake of international appeal, Mo Ting had given it a lot of thought. Just like every other time they watched a movie, the husband and wife had a lot of topics to discuss about the movie. At this time, Tongning realized that talking about films could actually make Mo Ting relax. This normally busy and intelligent man, when it came to talking about the things he liked, he could also be so excited. Tongning really wanted to complete the dream that Mo Ting didn't get to fulfill when he was young. So, no one was allowed to stop Stupid from being filmed. That night, it was also the day that Kai Xinyan visited the elders of the Tang family home. Facing such a big family, even Father Kai had to be cautious, let alone a junior like Kai Xinyan. But, as soon as Kai Xinyan entered the Tang family home, she discovered that Tang Xian was the only one present. Everyone else was busy with their own tasks. Kai Xinyan lowered her guard. But she couldn't deny that the Tang Xian and Tang Ning in front of her were indeed sisters. They looked so similar that when they smiled, they both had faint dimples on their cheeks. Xian Jie, I'm actually here today because I wanted to ask about Tang Ning. I bumped into her a few days ago at a dinner party and we chatted for a bit. But I noticed that she didn't mention her family much. It's because she was kicked out of the family by grandfather, Tang Xian replied straightforwardly. Chapter 307. Why are you suddenly interested in her? Tang Xian maintained her elegant demeanor as she asked Kai Xinyan with a sharp gaze. You two don't actually know each other, do you? After being seen through, Kai Xinyan smiled awkwardly and explained, I simply don't understand why a rich heiress would humiliate herself and implicate her family. You don't need to worry about this. Tang Ning is self-aware, Tang Xian interrupted Kai Xinyan stiffly. Miss Kai, this is a Tang family matter. Kai Xinyan knew the Tang family weren't to be offended, so she took a step back in order to advance. Xian Jie, I don't mean anything by it. I simply feel it's a pity. There's nothing for you to feel sorry about. After all, she was merely the child of a mistress and had no status in the Tang family. Luckily, Tang Ning knew where she stood. At least, she knew better than her mother. So, the Tang family simply pretended Tang Ning didn't exist and didn't interfere with each other. Kai Xinyan did not find out anything useful. All she knew was, Tang Ning had indeed been kicked out of the Tang family. After Kai Xinyan left, Tang Xian instructed a servant to clean up the cup she had drunk from. Just as she was about to stand up, she saw Elder Tang enter the living room with the help of a walking stick. Grandfather. I just saw Miss Kai, what's the matter? Tang Xian did not dare to mention Tang Ning in front of Elder Tang, so she simply replied, I just came to pay a visit. I don't have any other intentions. Elder Tang glanced at Tang Xian. His sharp gaze was filled with suspicion, but he did not probe any further. Instead, he said in a serious tone, I've seen the news about Miss Kai and Tang Ning. Is she the socialite that you were talking about? She shook hands with my granddaughter, yet she insisted on washing her hands because she thought it was dirty. Tang Xian froze. Grandfather. Don't think that I'm still angry at Tang Ning. You all know why I chased Tang Ning out of the family. The person that did such a ridiculous thing was your father. It had nothing to do with Tang Ning. I may have been disappointed in her, but Tang Ning is also my granddaughter. This is an undeniable fact. Elder Tang did not say much, but Tang Xian felt a strong sense of discomfort and unease. In this family, Tang Ning was the only child of a mistress, yet, she received the most love from her grandfather. What did Tang Ning have to deserve this? Plus, what did grandfather mean by this? Tang Ning had no idea that her name had already caused a commotion in the Tang family. She was simply focused on preparing for the filming of the French film Fearless. She wanted to give it her best shot and create the effect that Mo Ting wanted. The day before they left for France, Long Jie asked Tang Ning for some time off. As she packed her luggage, Tang Ning turned to look at Long Jie confusedly. Haven't you always followed me through thick and thin? Ever since she got together with Lu Che, she no longer clung to me. I want to spend a few more days with him. Plus, when you go to France, boss will be there for you. Whether or not I am there, it doesn't make a difference, Long Jie explained with a smile. Tang Ning looked at Long Jie carefully and noticed marks on her neck. Is that the reason you abandoned me? Long Jie quickly held onto her neck and cleared her throat. Lu Che did something to you? What attack? That sounds so unpleasant. Long Jie pulled out the marriage certificate from her bag and showed it to Tang Ning. We are legally married, legally married. Tang Ning looked at Long Jie and Lu Che's marriage certificate and was a little surprised. Why haven't I heard you mention this before? That day, later that night, the two of us couldn't control ourselves. So, I told him that I didn't want to have sex before marriage. So the next day, we got our marriage certificate. Tang Ning handed the marriage certificate back to Long Jie and felt a little upset. You got married so hastily. I didn't even get a chance to give you my blessings. What else is there to say between us? Long Jie laughed. Plus, this was decided by Lu Che and I. We simply wanted to spend some time together in our own little world. What we have right now is perfect. If I don't allow you to take time off like this, would I still have any humanity left? Tongning put down her luggage and gently hugged Long Jie. You must continue to be so lovey-dovey. Over the past few days, because of Starking's acquisition, Lu Che has been extremely busy. How about I give my husband a phone call and ask him to give your husband a few days off? What do you think? Oh, you are the best. That afternoon, Mo Ting returned home. Tongning told him about Lu Che and Long Jie's marriage and asked him to give Lu Che some time off. Mo Ting thought for a moment and did not reject. After all, we don't need him for the time being. Are you looking down on Lu Che? Tongning couldn't help but laugh as she handed Mo Ting their luggage. No wonder you've been handling things slower lately. It turns out, you've been focusing your energy elsewhere. Mo Ting gestured for Tongning to stand still and not move around. He then carried their luggage into the car. Everything's packed, let's go. But, you are going overseas with me. Why don't you let Fang Yu replace Lu Che for a few days? In reality, Tongning wanted to help Hu Jingjing. Lu Che and Long Jie were already married, but Hu Jingjing and Fang Yu were currently separated. Hu Jingjing isn't in France. Tongning was shocked. How did Mo Ting see through her plan? Plus, you've underestimated your husband. Tongning did not refute as she pulled open the car door and boarded the car with Mo Ting. Their flight was set for 8 p.m. Mo Ting arrived at the airport with a few accompanying staff. Chapter 308. It was a very strange sight. If a normal celebrity were to do something like this at a place like this, they would definitely think that it was a publicity stunt. But, when it came to Tongning and Mo Ting, it was a harmonious scene that made everyone feel comfortable. Mo Ting's abstinence had long been ingrained in the netizens' hearts. Just based on the fact that he was previously elusive, yet he was now willing to give up his personal space and freedom for Tongning, everyone had enough reason to believe that he treasured Tongning. Even stranger, even though everyone knew that Tongning and Mo Ting's status in the industry were as different as the clouds and mud. Damn it, no one felt like she was trying to climb up the social ladder. She was obviously a cold person. But, just a moment ago, in order to not tire Mo Ting out, she lowered her pride and bowed to everyone so they could be lenient. The way she treated the man with equal love made everyone feel like they were worthy of respect. Plenty of women, especially female artists, enjoyed being doted on by men as if it was only natural. But, while Tongning was paying attention to Mo Ting, she was also genuinely concerned about whether he was tired or not. To be honest, I didn't like Tongning in the past. I felt like she was always putting on airs. But, after seeing her take off her glasses and bow to everyone for Mo Ting's sake, I suddenly feel like she's not as annoying as before. I feel the exact opposite. I feel like Tongning is the type of person that treats her own people especially well. I can tell just by looking at how she treats her assistant. Plus, when she and Mo Ting are together, I can feel the respect and admiration she has for him. I'm actually quite envious of her. These were the conversations and discussions of the passers-by as they followed Tongning and Mo Ting for the entire journey. But, at this moment, Tongning only had Mo Ting in her eyes. So, as soon as they boarded the plane, Tongning said to Mo Ting, "Hurry and go to sleep. I've never seen you so tired." Mo Ting did not say a word as he leaned against Tongning's shoulder. Not long after, he fell asleep. Tongning stretched out her hand and rubbed his temples. Her heart ached for him, but there was nothing she could do. During the 11-hour flight, Mo Ting barely woke up once. Tongning did not disturb him. Even though her entire body was numb, she did not move an inch. It wasn't until the plane was about to land that Mo Ting slowly opened his eyes. "You're awake. How long have I slept for?" Mo Ting sat up and looked at the time before turning to look at Tongning. "Almost 10 hours. Have you been lying there all this time?" "I'm fine," Tongning said. Mo Ting didn't believe her. He reached out and pulled her into his embrace, only to discover her entire body was stiff. "Don't be so silly in the future. But I like doing this for you. Besides, Isn't love just two idiots getting together? Seeing Mo Ting's heartbroken expression, Tongning couldn't help but smile. She felt that there wouldn't be another couple in this world like them. Even if it was a small matter, they would still be heartbroken for each other for so long. As expected, as soon as Tongning got off the plane, she was carried away. Tongning also had fans in France. So, she had no choice but to bury her head in Mo Ting's chest. She didn't want to be the center of attention again. Originally, Mo Ting wanted to let Tongning get used to the jet lag after they arrived in France. But, Fearless said they couldn't wait any longer and urged them to hurry to the studio. Tongning understood how Fearless was feeling, so she replied, "I slept for quite some time on the plane. Plus, who would know if it was night or day on set? I can do it." Mo Ting hugged her tightly for 3 minutes. After arriving in France, the couple had a quick shower and hurried over to Fearl's studio. As soon as she saw the couple, Fearless was excited. She immediately hugged Tongning and said, "I can't wait for you to try it on." As soon as Tongning saw the finished product, she was also amazed by Fearl's talent. The aura of the clothes was very similar to the actress from Stupid. "Go ahead." Mo Ting's eyes were filled with anticipation. Tongning nodded her head and entered the changing room. After putting on the first set of clothes, she suddenly felt like she was the actress and the actress was herself. Tongning was currently wearing a black and white checkered dress with a champagne-colored scarf as her accessory. Tongning suddenly remembered the description of the actress in the script. Especially during the part where she was kept by a rich businessman, she wandered around the nightclub looking for men. She wanted to accept her fate, but at the same time, she didn't want to give up. She sat at the bar in her checkered dress and scanned the men that walked past. She hoped to meet a man that could make her heart beat faster so she could spend the night with him. Tongning walked out of the changing room with this feeling in her heart. Afterwards, Fearless covered her mouth in shock. When she first walked in, she was Tongning, but when she walked out, she was a completely different person. Even the makeup on her face had not changed. Mo Ting's expression was complicated as well. He had always known that Tongning was good at analyzing the feelings that clothes were trying to convey. But, he had no idea, Tongning was also good at analyzing his script. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." Fearless exclaimed. "Oh God, who is this? Is this still Tongning?" Tongning looked at Mo Ting expectantly. The couple stared at each other for quite some time without saying a word. In the end, Mo Ting pulled Tongning into his embrace and hugged her tightly. Tongning had made him feel like he was looking at a character from a film. "President Mo, are you still hesitating?" Fearless asked excitedly. Chapter 309. Fearless did not have a lot of work to do. The entire shoot only took half a day. But, looking at Tongning in front of the camera, Fearless still felt it was a pity that Mo Ting didn't use her. "Are you suspecting that Tongning doesn't have a professional foundation and can't handle the role?" Fearless asked Mo Ting. "I simply don't want to kidnap her," Mo Ting replied as he crossed his arms. "She has her own dreams that she wants to achieve. I don't want her to give up on something that's already within her reach because of me." The filming of Stupid clashes with Fashion Week. If she misses February's Fashion Week, it will affect her ranking next season. "You are really considerate of her." Mo Ting looked at Tongning through the camera lens and noticed her confidence. He then smiled and said, "I only have this one treasure. Even if it's my dream, I will still give in for her." "Okay, I don't think I can convince you." Fearless knew her limitations. "But, no matter what, I am still deeply honored to have met you and a great model like Tongning. I feel the two of you are quite interesting. It seems, as long as you work together, nothing can stop you." "It's as you say." Mo Ting couldn't deny this point. After filming was over, the group gathered for a meal. Director Coke was also present because Stupid was about to hold its press conference. The group treated each other like friends without any awkwardness. However, before they left, Coke turned to Mo Ting and said mysteriously, "Actually, I also have high hopes for your wife." Mo Ting smiled without giving Coke an answer. Seeing the mysterious smiles on the couple's faces, Tongning asked Mo Ting as soon as they returned to the hotel, "You, Fearless and Director Coke are acting a little strange." "How so?" Mo Ting asked as he wrapped his arm around Tongning's waist. "Don't tell me they aren't looking at me with a burning gaze?" Tongning asked as she pointed to her eyes. Mo Ting smiled as he led Tongning to sit on the edge of the bed and explained, "Because they all feel you should be the female lead of Stupid." Tongning froze for a moment without saying a word. However, Mo Ting quickly dispelled her nervousness. "I've already rejected them. Don't worry." In reality, Tongning understood Mo Ting had the same desire, but she wasn't so sure. She knew, without any international awards to support her, it wouldn't be appropriate for her to suddenly become an actress. That was equivalent to starting from zero, because it was a whole new field. Most importantly, she was a little afraid. If she really fell in love with acting? This was a difficult multiple-choice question. "What are you thinking about?" Seeing Tongning in a daze, Mo Ting pressed her down on the bed and removed her robe. Tongning immediately sensed Mo Ting's intentions. She collected her thoughts and wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's neck. "What time are you flying back tomorrow?" "Noon." "Then." Before Tongning could finish her sentence, Mo Ting's kiss landed on her lips. Tongning carefully looked at Mo Ting's thick eyelashes. All of a sudden, she wanted to look at him up close. However, Mo Ting suddenly sat up, grabbed her hands and placed them on top of his robe. "Help me take them off." Tongning also sat up, but her robe had already slipped off her body. She looked at Mo Ting in a daze as she removed his robe. Her long and slender fingers silently crawled up his back. Two perfect bodies without any excess fat were entwined like vines. The possessive desire to eat each other into their stomachs was actually the most crazy thing to do. Mo Ting never left a mark on Tongning's body. Tongning, on the other hand, would occasionally nibble on his shoulder. However, Mo Ting never felt any pain. He knew better than anyone, this was Tongning's unique mark. After the pleasure, Mo Ting hugged Tongning and joined their bodies together. Tongning did not say a word, her lips simply curved upwards into a smile. Because, when you love someone, you will understand why you want him to do this to you. You want to possess him in the deepest way possible. Late at night in Beijing, it was colder than in France. The wind was bone-chilling. Meanwhile, actress Yu Shanshan was having dinner with a rich man at a 5-star hotel. As an A-list actress, Yu Shanshan had already won every major award in the country. At the tender age of 31, she had already taken part in a Hollywood film that had grossed nearly $1.5 billion. Amongst all the overseas Chinese actors, she held a certain amount of weight. Of course, she was also one of the A-list actresses that Mo Ting had already signed. However, just as she was about to sign her contract, a man called Jaking contacted her. He was the mixed-race man that she was currently having dinner with. If Yu Shanshan remembered correctly, Jaking's father was also a shareholder of Hai Rui. So, why would he treat her to dinner alone? "Miss Yu, you are indeed beautiful. Jaking, if you have something to say, then don't hesitate to say it." Yu Shanshan was used to big scenes. But, she wanted to know if Jaking was really brave enough to compete with Mo Ting for her. "Miss Yu is indeed a heroine," Jaking laughed. "But, don't misunderstand. I simply want to pursue you." "Pursue me?" Yu Shanshan laughed. "Why didn't you pursue me earlier or later? Why did you choose this time?" "This time? Miss Yu's daughter should be able to call you mother by now, right? Did you send someone to investigate me?" Yu Shanshan's expression suddenly changed as her gaze turned fierce and angry. "In this industry, what secrets can there be?" Jaking shrugged. "Do you believe me? Hai Rui actually has more information than you do. For example, they know which other female celebrities your lover has slept with. Mo Ting is too much of a gentleman to use this to threaten his artists. But, I'm different. I like to be ruthless." Yu Shanshan took a deep breath and said, "Tell me, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to stop filming Stupid?" "I agree. You don't need to stop filming. You can continue. But, I want you to make an accident towards the end," Jaking said. "For such a big project, if we have to start all over again after finishing filming, I wonder how Hai Rui's shareholders would feel about Mo Ting. You can't blame President Mo for this. I naturally have a way to blame it on him, Yu Shanshan scoffed. Yu Shanshan scoffed, so, your ambition isn't just to snatch people from Mo Ting, it's to snatch Hai Rui. Don't worry, I will make sure you get out of this unscathed. You will still be the treasured actress that everyone loves. Yu Shanshan tried her best to hold back her anger. But when she thought about her daughter and her career, Yu Shanshan had no choice but to temporarily compromise. Even if you do everything you can to snatch it from Mo Ting, you may not win. Jaking, you are wrong. Mo Ting has never been a gentleman. When faced with a wolf, he is the devil. You seem to know him very well. Because we were classmates. Chapter 310. Why didn't you try to find out more about this? Yu Shanshan asked. Of course, it's not a big deal. But, the fact that Hai Rui has access to so much information is unexpected, yet understandable. This is also what sets Mo Ting apart from others. As long as someone is loyal to him, they will feel safe even if he knows about their privacy. In fact, they will feel a sense of security. You, on the other hand, only know how to use force. That is the difference. After speaking, Yu Shanshan stood up. Before she left, she blew Jaking a kiss. I hope you succeed in seizing power and don't die a horrible death. By the way, some people think that if they are given the same power and status, they will be able to achieve great things. In the end, reality will prove them wrong. They need to know their place. Jaking coldly stroked the corner of his lips. At this point, what did he care about the location of the seat? All he knew was, men were wild. There was no man that didn't love power. The next day, Tongning slept with Mo Ting for the entire morning. Originally, she wanted him to rest for a few more days, but seeing his excitement towards stupid, she knew she had no reason to stop him. However, the way they slept last night was a little out of Tongning's expectations of relationships. So, when she woke up, her cheeks were flushed red. On top of that, some of the tools were wrapped around Mo Ting's private parts. It was bound to be uncomfortable, so Tongning had no choice but to help him clean up. As Tongning reached out her hands, Mo Ting woke up. Of course, he did not let her know, otherwise, his little wife would feel awkward again. After Tongning covered him with the blanket, Mo Ting wrapped his arms around her and pressed her under his body. Mrs. Mo, you are very virtuous. Tongning knew he did it on purpose, so she covered her face in embarrassment. Sleep a little longer, there's still some time before we leave the airport. After speaking, she pushed Mo Ting away and hid in the bathroom. Mo Ting propped himself up and couldn't help but laugh. If he could be this blissful every morning, he would be willing to trade his life for it. 1 p.m. the couple returned to Beijing. But, just before boarding the plane, Tongning received an unexpected phone call. Her expression immediately changed. I am Tang Xian. After you return, come meet with me. The Tang family. Hearing Tang Xian's voice, Tongning felt like a lifetime had passed. Unknowingly, 9 years had passed. In fact, she was used to being alone, so when she suddenly received a call from the Tang family, her first thought was that there was going to be trouble. On the other side of the phone, seeing Tongning did not respond, Tang Xian's tone hardened. What, you don't want to? There doesn't seem to be a need for us to meet. When she was young, she had always felt that she had stolen something from someone else. Although you found yourself a rich tycoon in the entertainment industry, he doesn't seem to care much about you. Plus, you don't have a title to him, so it's easy for you to be taken advantage of. Sign it, otherwise, you'll end up with nothing. Tongning lowered her head and took a sip of her coffee. Did you call me here today just to say this? A few days ago, grandfather mentioned your name in front of me. Are you afraid I'll return to the Tang family? Tongning finally understood Tang Xian's intention as her voice turned cold. If you hadn't come to disturb me, I wouldn't even have remembered the Tang family existed. You can take back the company. In exchange for me not returning to the Tang family, the two of you must never appear in front of me again. I want you to retire from the modeling industry, Tang Xian said in an even colder voice. You are becoming more and more famous by the day. Whenever you are mentioned, people will inevitably think of your family background. Although we don't want to admit it, the media will automatically link us together. I don't want to see a single member of the Tang family's name appear on the pages of those dirty magazines. Because I feel disgusted when my name is placed next to a bunch of shady names. Chapter 3:11. I guess so. But I don't think they are shady. At least, they rely on their own abilities to survive, Tongning retorted. Tang Xian, you need to remember, I'm not returning to the Tang family because I'm kind, but it doesn't mean I owe you anything. From now on, don't ask me to do things like it's only natural. I have the freedom to do whatever I want. Tang Xian was a little surprised. She never expected Tongning to have a temper and refute her. Whether I return to the Tang family or not, it's all up to me. I was simply being polite when I mentioned the terms. Don't take it seriously. You've been married for 3 years and you still haven't given birth to a child. You must be worrying too much about other people. You should focus on yourself first. If there's nothing else, I'm going to leave first. Next time, don't ask me out for no reason. I was simply giving face to grandfather this time. After speaking, Tongning stood up. But, just as she was about to leave, Mo Ting's tall figure appeared in front of the couple and asked, "Are you done?" Tongning nodded. "Miss Tang is quite generous to give me an entertainment agency." Mo Ting wrapped his arm around Tongning's waist and looked at the share transfer agreement. He then laughed. "I wonder where Miss Tang's sense of superiority comes from. You are a part of the Tang family and Tongning is a part of the Mo family. Above the Tang family is the Mo family. Don't think you're invincible. Don't come looking for Tongning again. If you deny it, I will assume the Tang family is trying to climb up to the Mo family." Tang Xian appeared calm on the surface, but in reality, she was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Mo Ting looked down at Tang Xian. Seeing her reaction, his lips curved upwards in satisfaction as he gestured for Tongning to leave. "Let's go." Tongning nodded her head. Her heart felt unusually warm. This was the sense of security her husband gave her. So, she couldn't help but complain, "The car I drive is being laughed at." "That's because you keep a low profile." Tongning got rid of the unhappiness in her heart as she held Mo Ting's hand and left the private club. They then boarded Mo Ting's limited edition sports car and drove off, leaving Tang Xian to smash the cup of coffee in her hand. "Tongning, you are capable. Unfortunately, you will never marry into the Mo family. I refuse to believe that the Mo family will tolerate a model. Was this an incomprehensible disease of wealth?" On the way home, Tongning smiled. "Why are you here? Do you want me to watch you being humiliated with words?" Mo Ting looked at Tongning and said in a serious tone, "No one can bully you, no one can." "You too." Tongning replied with the same determination. Their eyes met. In the end, Tongning smiled. "Don't worry, I'm no longer the Tongning from back then. I won't take this lying down." Taking a step back, even if I tolerate it today, it's so that I can return the slap in the future. Stupid is about to hold its press release. Do you want to attend with me? The press conference had nothing to do with her, however. Yes, Tongning answered straightforwardly. A doting smile appeared on Mo Ting's face as he escorted her back to Hyatt Regency. That night, Tongning received news from Mo Ting that she had once again won the title of the most beautiful legs in the world. She was now ranked 3rd. Mo Ting arranged for Fang Yu to release an announcement to raise Tongning's international status. Following on, they had to prepare for the Fashion Week auditions. But, Tongning decided to head to Milan in the middle of January when Stupid officially began filming. In reality, the male lead had already joined the cast and Yu Shanshan was to join the cast of Stupid as soon as she completed her previous film. But, because of her schedule, Yu Shanshan requested for her scenes to be filmed together. In reality, there weren't many scenes, only around 100. But, no one expected Yu Shanshan to make this request because she was brewing a huge conspiracy. Yu Shanshan was not an actress under Hai Rui, so Hai Rui had no way of coordinating her schedule. So, Mo Ting agreed. 2 days later, Hai Rui held a press conference for Stupid. Hai Rui's main focus was on the world-class director, 3-time Fei Tian Best Actor Lin Sheng and Hollywood's Chinese Best Supporting Actress, Yu Shanshan. Of course, there was no lack of famous American actors joining the cast. Stupid had used the best resources in the film and television industry. As soon as the press conference was released, film fans immediately raised their heads in anticipation. After all, they were used to watching fan films. So, they were hoping for a film with a good storyline and good acting skills. On the other hand, the poster for Stupid used the male lead's entire face. Half of it was lifeless like a fool, while the other half was sharp like a demon. Such a contrast immediately attracted the attention of movie fans. Plus, it was produced by Hai Rui, so film fans were extremely excited. They all left comments expressing their anticipation for the film to be released. At the press conference for Stupid, if a careful reporter was present, he would have noticed that Tang Ning was sitting below the stage. Her eyes were filled with trust and admiration as she looked at Mo Ting. No one knew who the screenwriter of Stupid was. In fact, Mo Ting had not told anyone. In this entire world, only Tang Ning knew. After Mo Ting finished his speech, he gently nodded at Yu Shanshan as a greeting. However, Yu Shanshan's eyes flashed with an unnatural look. If a smart person like Mo Ting found out that someone was messing with him like this, would he suffer a huge blow when the truth was revealed? Mo Ting walked past Yu Shanshan and returned to his seat beside Tang Ning. At this moment, the reporters realized that Tang Ning had been sitting below the stage the entire time. The two of them sat side by side and did not make any particularly intimate movements. They would only occasionally whisper a few words into each other's ears and their heads against each other's. "Wait a moment, I have a meeting to attend. I'll get Lu Che to take you home." "Okay, you can go first." In the end, without Mo Ting around, Tang Ning was immediately surrounded by reporters after the press conference. "Miss Tang Ning, which celebrity are you here to support today?" Tang Ning had a feeling that the reporters were asking the obvious. After a moment of silence, Tang Ning replied, "This film is very exciting." In other words, she was here because of the film. The reporters choked for a moment. They suddenly felt that Tang Ning's ability to play Tai Chi with the media was getting better and better. In that case, President Mo must value this film a lot, right? I heard he personally chose the director and actors. He values every single one of Hai Rui's productions. Tang Ning did not fall for the trap that the media had dug for her. Rumor has it that President Mo has decided to cast you as the female lead. Is this true? Hearing this question, Tang Ning subconsciously looked in Yu Shanshan's direction and replied, "I'm not sure where you heard this from, but this is the first time I've heard of it." Chapter 312. How could that be? You are President Mo's girlfriend. With such a good script and such a big production team, this is a rare opportunity. If Miss Tang Ning was given the opportunity, would you agree to star in it? Hearing the reporter's questions, Tang Ning furrowed her brows. President Mo is also your manager. How could he not consider his own artist? The reporter's voice was very loud and his questions were very direct. As a result, the main production team of Stupid naturally felt uncomfortable after hearing their questions. I think the reporter that asked this question hasn't graduated yet, right?" A crisp voice interrupted Tang Ning's response from behind. Her tone was a little arrogant. Tang Ning turned around to see Yu Shanshan had walked over to her side and was answering the reporter's question on her behalf. "The President Mo I know has always been impartial. He is not someone who can't differentiate between work and personal matters. Plus, don't bully her while her boyfriend isn't around." Yu Shanshan's words sounded like she was trying to help Tang Ning out of a difficult situation, but Tang Ning felt her words were harsh on her ears. However, Tang Ning did not show it. She simply maintained her usual smile and said to the media, "Every decision that President Mo makes is after careful consideration and is most suitable for everyone." The reason why I am here today is purely because I like Stupid and because I am familiar with the writer. I simply wanted to give him some support and encouragement. I have no other intentions." After speaking, Tongning did not wait for the reporters and Yu Shanshan to respond as she directly left. It was obvious, Tongning had no intention of accepting Yu Shanshan's help. Because Yu Shanshan's tone was like, "Are you guys joking?" Even if Mo Ting wanted to promote his girlfriend, he wouldn't hire a model that doesn't know anything. What does she know about acting? In reality, that was exactly what Yu Shanshan meant. If she wanted to walk on the runway, she should focus on her runway. Not every bowl of rice could be eaten by her. Especially when it was such a big production. Is Tongning leaving just like that? Shanshan helped her out. Isn't she going to say a word of thanks? What do you guys know? She must have begged President Mo for help, but he didn't agree, so she's not happy. Yu Shanshan listened to the discussion of the reporters as she turned around and left with a meaningful look in her eyes. Although she said these words on purpose, it was undeniable that she was sincere. Tongning was Mo Ting's person, so it was easy for her to give him pillow talk. Plus, as an inexperienced model, if she was to take part in the film, wouldn't she be making a joke out of all the actors that had been honed for years? After the press conference, Yu Shanshan and her assistant left the venue together. However, they bumped into Jaking in the parking lot. Yu Shanshan carefully got into Jaking's car and asked, "What are you doing here? I've already achieved the result you wanted. Now, the reporters all know there's a gap between us. You really put in a lot of effort," Jaking praised. "You only have 100 scenes. Just bear with it. If you don't want to be discovered by Mo Ting, you better not appear in front of me," Yu Shanshan scoffed as she pushed open the door and left Jaking's sports car. In actual fact, Yu Shanshan really liked the story of Stupid. If she wasn't threatened, she really wanted to use Stupid to fight for a few more awards. What a pity. Perhaps this was all fate. Tongning appears at press conference and falls out with Yu Shanshan. Tongning suspected of secretly asking boyfriend to take part in Stupid. Yu Shanshan mocks Tongning. "Walk your runway path well." This was the article that the media released after Tongning appeared at the press conference for Stupid. After Longjie saw it, she directly crumpled the newspaper into a ball and threw it into the bin. Damn, are the media blind? When did we say we wanted to act? Plus, why can't we act? Longjie couldn't accept it. Actually, Longjie had long felt that Tongning was not only a natural model, she was also a natural actress. Because, every time she appeared on the runway, her soul would blend in with the stage and the exhibits. It made people feel like she was a person that could change a lot. She could blend in with any environment. As for those film fans, they kept saying that a model should be a good model and not ruin the film. "You are the one who ruined the film, your whole family ruined the film." "They're not wrong," Tongning said as she held onto the magazine. "I don't know how to act, that is the truth. But they don't have to make it sound so bad, right?" Tongning didn't mind at all. After all, they weren't in the same industry, so it was fine as long as she didn't mind. To be honest, did President Mo tell you to act in the film? Longjie suddenly jumped over to Tongning's side and leaned on her shoulder as she asked suggestively. "Why do you want me to act?" Tongning asked as she glared at Longjie. "It will allow you to develop more comprehensively. Also, according to your personality, you will want to try it, especially when someone provokes you." "But I really don't understand anything." Soon, Yu Shanshan will be joining the cast. From now on, there will be less news about her. Just ignore her. I believe, if they were actors from Hai Rui, Boss would have dealt with them a long time ago. Tongning smiled helplessly. "We are not competitors, there is no need for us to be so involved. She can beat me up in the film and television industry, but I can also laugh at her in the modeling industry. We are simply using our strengths to compete with others' weaknesses. There is nothing for you to be angry about." "That's true." Longjie nodded her head in agreement. By the way, Jingjing seems to have returned to China. Since you don't have any work these few days, do you want to go look for her? Forget it, Tongning shook her head. Let her spend some time with Fang Yu 7 p.m. Mo Ting returned home to find Tongning lying on the sofa with her script in her hands, waiting for him. He immediately ran over and carried her in his arms. Tongning had a light sleep. As soon as she woke up to find Mo Ting, she rubbed her head against his chest. It's time to get off work. I saw the interview after the press conference. It wasn't a big deal. Tongning replied gently. But, after thinking for a moment, she suddenly asked, does Yu Shanshan's agency have a plan to create hype? Why do you say that? I feel like the reporter's question is too misleading, Tongning replied in seriousness. Plus, only Coke and Fearless mentioned me to you. How did the reporter find out? After hearing this, Mo Ting gently nudged Tongning's head. I will take note of it. You've worked hard, wifey. Judging from your calm expression, do you know what you're doing? Before talking to Yu Shanshan, I spoke to the person in charge of her agency. She doesn't have any upcoming events, but she suddenly requested to focus on filming. She said there were some changes to her schedule. From what I know, she only has one overseas event and it was already scheduled a long time ago. Mo Ting replied. Then why did you? Sure. I also have a new plan, Mo Ting said as he placed her on the soft bed. Chapter 313. These few days. Yu Shanshan finally joined the cast. Originally, Yu Shanshan thought the news of Tongning snatching the female lead would be suppressed. But, Yu fans ended up leaving comments on Mo Ting's social media page, telling him not to take the unorthodox path and to keep an eye on Tongning and not ruin the film. But, that place was where Mo Ting and Tongning's CP fans gathered. So, seeing the Yu fans' insults, there was no way they could tolerate it. So, they immediately retaliated, mocking Yu Shanshan for her short legs and saying she couldn't hold up to the aura of an actress. Just like that, a battle between fans began. However, Tongning had never publicly expressed or hinted that she wanted to steal the lead role of Stupid. However, the matter continued to be stirred up. Even though Hai Rui tried their best to suppress public opinion, the anger of the fans wasn't something that could be resolved simply by removing the trending searches. Tongning, who is fanning the flames behind the scenes? Long Jie looked at the various comments and felt something wasn't right. But, they didn't offend Yu Shanshan, did they? Plus, in their eyes, why is there such a huge difference between a model and an actor? What do you mean by at least relying on acting skills to make a living? Why don't you let these people try a fashion show? Stop reading these boring gossips, Tongning said as she lifted her head. Long Jie opened her mouth and sighed. No matter what, Tongning always managed to maintain her composure. But, Long Jie couldn't. Even though she knew she didn't need to care about these people, Long Jie was still angered to the point of vomiting blood. Why hasn't Boss stepped out to clarify this matter? Tongning suddenly lowered her head and did not say a word. Meanwhile, Long Jie's eyes widened. Does Boss really want you to act? That was why he kept quiet. Otherwise, if Tongning accepted, it would be a slap in the face. Then it's not him. There's no way he would use me to create hype. I'm afraid this matter isn't as simple as Yu Shanshan. Otherwise, he would have dealt with it long ago and wouldn't have waited until now. It sounds a little complicated. Since it's all under the boss's control, I won't ask. Tongning nodded her head. You should have said this from the start. Then tell me, if you were really needed, would you do it? She simply hoped Yu Shanshan wouldn't cause any more trouble. But, if Mo Ting needed her, she would definitely step forward. Seeing Tongning did not respond, Long Jie smiled. No matter what you do, I will support you. You read, you watch, I will continue to fight a few hundred rounds with this retard. President, the fans are still fighting fiercely. Lu Che showed the latest data to Mo Ting. I've already investigated a few active fans and checked their IP address. It seems the same person is behind all of this. Someone is indeed stirring up trouble behind the scenes. But, there's something I don't understand. Why didn't the president clarify? Lu Che was a little confused. Logically speaking, it was just a simple request from Mo Ting. Was it really that difficult? If it's Yu Shanshan, she is already the lead actress. According to her reputation, does she need to use Tongning to create hype? Hai Rui has already prepared a series of promotional plans. There is no need for her to risk offending me, so. I understand now. There's someone else behind this. Who are you trying to make things difficult for? Lu Che thought for a few seconds before pointing his finger at Mo Ting. You. But, if you step forward to clarify, none of this will happen. Lu Che returned to the original question. But, after thinking about it, Mo Ting still had not said a word, which meant, does the president really want the madam to act? As long as she tells me that she doesn't want to act, I will step forward to clarify. As long as she doesn't say anything, I will definitely pave the way for her. So, expanding the matter is simply a part of the plan. Since Yu Shanshan requested for everyone to film together, it meant she couldn't just stay out of this. Since they were all in the same boat, he would simply give them a tooth for a tooth. Will the madam want to act? She wants to, Mo Ting replied without hesitation. Because she knows she is the most suitable person for the role. More importantly, she knows how important stupid is to me. I hate it when people give up halfway. Those that challenge me usually pay a higher price. This was something Lu Che believed. Late at night, Tongning looked at the schedule that Mo Ting had arranged for her. Filming for Stupid had already begun and it was time for her to attend Fashion Week. But, whenever she thought about Yu Shanshan, she felt uneasy. She indeed had a special feeling towards Stupid. Not only because it was written by Mo Ting, but because through Stupid, she gained a deeper understanding of Mo Ting's world. As a woman that doted on her husband, she couldn't tolerate anyone being disrespectful to his work. For example, the male lead, Lin Sheng, had publicly supported Yu Shanshan and ridiculed her. But, Tongning did not feel uncomfortable because Lin Sheng was extremely serious about the script. As long as she was serious about filming, she didn't care what Lin Sheng said. But, Yu Shanshan wasn't. That night, Tongning tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Perhaps, she was afraid of waking Mo Ting up, so she tiptoed to the garden to get some air to wake herself up. But, Mo Ting had always been paying attention to his chest. How could he not notice his arms were empty? It's only 3 a.m. Why are you up? Tongning turned around and looked at Mo Ting as she shook her head. I can't sleep. Did I put pressure on you? Mo Ting asked with a double meaning as he wrapped his arms around Tongning from behind. Let's do what we did in the past. If Yu Shanshan stops, or if the person behind her stops, then we won't make a move. Nothing will change, okay? What if they don't stop? Mo Ting's eyes suddenly darkened. Tongning turned around and wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's waist. I'm sorry, they can bully me, but they can't bully you. I'll act. No matter how difficult it is, I will still try for you. Mo Ting smiled gently and hugged Tongning tightly. Okay. Who told Tongning to be a husband that was doted on by power? After the couple agreed, Mo Ting returned to the bedroom with Tongning. He couldn't imagine how much she cared about this matter to the point that she couldn't sleep at night. He didn't mean to force her like this. He couldn't help but feel his heart ache. But, since he had made a promise to Tongning, Mo Ting was going to put it into practice. He promised to give Yu Shanshan a chance, so he wasn't going to go back on his word. So, the next day, Mo Ting went to visit Hai Rui's film studio. While Yu Shanshan was waiting to film, he called her into the waiting room. Although they were classmates, Yu Shanshan did not dare to look into Mo Ting's eyes. He was too stern, it was like he could see right through her. Chapter 3:14. Did you think that by not looking into my eyes, you would be able to avoid the fact that I came looking for you today? Mo Ting was dressed in a dark blue custom-made suit, giving off a noble aura. Yu Shanshan was a little flustered, but she gathered her courage and looked at Mo Ting. Mo Ting looked at Yu Shanshan and handed her the contract in his hand. I've increased your salary. Why? Because I want to buy your loyalty. Mo Ting said straightforwardly. He stared into Yu Shanshan's eyes and said, since we are classmates, I can ignore what you did behind my back. But my patience is limited. I don't understand what you're saying. This time, Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply smiled at Yu Shanshan. But this smile was enough to make Yu Shanshan feel the power of destruction. For a split second, she wanted to tell the truth, but Jaking had also come looking for her. The child is now in Jaking's hands. For the sake of the child, Yu Shanshan took a deep breath and said, "Thank you, President Mo. I won't let you down." So he stood up to leave. However, after taking a few steps, he turned around and asked Yu Shanshan, "Do you really think Tongning won't be able to act in your role?" Before Yu Shanshan could understand what Mo Ting meant, Mo Ting had already turned to leave. Yu Shanshan weakly sat on the sofa, but her palms were covered in cold sweat. Mo Ting understood. This was Mo Ting's final and most direct warning, but Jaking had no intention of backing down this time, so what else could she do? So, the news was still hyping up, and the fans were still fighting. Yu Shanshan repeated Mo Ting's words to Jaking. At this time, Jaking said to Yu Shanshan, "Keep a low profile for now. I will also keep a low profile for a while. Once your scenes are almost over, I will once again bring up this matter and stir it up. When that time comes, go tell Mo Ting and ask him to arrange a scene where you and Tongning break the ice and lure her onto the set. What do you want this time?" Yu Shanshan was a little frightened. The feeling of being constantly used by others made her feel abnormally uncomfortable. "You'll know what I want to do when the time comes. You really aren't just a normal kind of sinister." After saying this, Yu Shanshan stepped out of Jaking's car. That afternoon, Mo Ting arrived on set to visit Tongning. However, it had to be said that from that day onwards, the number of fans arguing online decreased by a lot, and the two sides became much more harmonious. Filming seemed to be going on the right track. Tongning followed Mo Ting to visit Yu Shanshan on set. In the end, she discovered that Yu Shanshan was indeed worthy of being nominated for Hollywood's Best Supporting Actress. Her acting was indisputably good. So, Tongning relaxed and her trip to Milan was just around the corner. "Mrs. Mo, I have to remind you that it's already late January. Are we going to announce our marriage in February?" Mo Ting had just returned home from work and was changing into comfortable home clothes in the cloakroom. Tongning was in the middle of packing when she heard Mo Ting's question. She was a little surprised as she tilted her head and thought for a few seconds. "What do you think? During February, you will spend most of your time in Milan. When your work is almost done, I will make arrangements," Mo Ting replied. "I'm fine with anything. I'll listen to you." Tongning turned and smiled at Mo Ting. Announcing their marriage, who knew how many people would be shocked to death? Tongning thought about it and felt a little nervous. After all, a lot of things were going to be different. "By the way, I don't want Long Jie to accompany me on the flight to Milan tomorrow. Let Fang Yu accompany me for 2 days. When you take over, he will return to Hai Rui." After changing, Mo Ting approached Tongning from behind and helped her close her luggage. He then nodded his head. "No matter where you go, you never forget to ask for benefits from your good friend. Think about the last time Jingjing came back, she didn't even stay for a day before leaving. This time, she will also be in Milan." Tongning wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's waist. "We've been apart for 2 days and you already couldn't stand it, let alone them being apart for half a month. Madam President, if you want someone, do you think I dare to not let them go? I will ask Fang Yu to free up some time in a moment." Tongning was satisfied. She stood on her tiptoes and wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's neck as she gave him a lingering kiss. Mo Ting noticed she was a little unsteady, so he wrapped his arm around her waist. "Why are you trembling? Every time I kiss you, I still feel nervous. It's like kissing someone for the first time and I can't help but get excited." Mo Ting's finger gently swept across Tongning's cheek and stopped at her earlobe as he played with it. "To me, you are also my goddess, my only queen." As their eyes met, the couple quickly kissed. Tongning felt weak all over. She wanted to find something to lean on, so she grabbed onto Mo Ting and said while panting, "Let's go back to the bedroom, okay?" Mo Ting did not respond. He couldn't bear to be apart for 2 days. So, he directly pressed Tongning against the closet and said in a deep voice, "But, I can't wait anymore." Tongning felt she could no longer look directly into the closet from now on. Especially since there were so many mirrors inside. This man seemed to be good at turning the house into a place of pleasure. Most importantly, she had no way of rejecting him. The next day, Tongning and Fang Yu arrived in Milan on time. As the person accompanying Tongning this time wasn't Mo Ting, the media once again wrote that Tongning had a disagreement with Mo Ting over stupid and had been given the cold shoulder by Mo Ting. At the end of the day, she is still just his girlfriend. No matter how much he dotes on her, when it comes to important times, benefits still come first. How can relationships in the entertainment industry stand up to challenges? They are simply consoling each other. Did they really think they could get married? These people sure have nothing better to do. How could something like this become a reason for you to break up? Lu Che said helplessly. Mo Ting put down the documents in his hands and turned to look at the comments online. His eyebrows furrowed. A moment later, he updated his personal page with the latest news. There were no words, only a photo. A photo of Tongning lying in his arms. Do they have to do this? Tongning has already left the country, yet President Mo still wants to show off his PDA. Why are the media so nosy? Even Mo Ting can't stand it anymore. How can he allow them to slander his girlfriend so easily? I think it's time for the media to stop. All I know is, Mo Ting spoils his wife too much. What cold shoulder? It's simply because they bumped into each other at work. Can you all leave now? After seeing the photo that Mo Ting had posted, Lu Che couldn't help but feel surprised. Actually, Tongning didn't necessarily care about these rumors. His CEO was getting more and more impatient. In reality, Mo Ting simply wanted to give the media a firm attitude. Because, with this attitude, Tongning would feel at ease no matter where she went. Tongning and Hai Rui's artist's director have split up. Should we stay here or continue to follow them? The paparazzi asked. The couple lived next door to Tongning. So, they took the risk to sneak into Tongning's window and place a listening device under it. With the addition of Jaking, their stalking tactics became even more unbridled. Follow me. After receiving their orders, the puppy immediately chased after Fang Yu, leaving Lin Chong behind to keep an eye on Tongning. In reality, Hu Jingjing had not yet stopped working. With over 10 interviews a day, she had no time to worry about anything else. By the time she was done, she looked at the time and realized it was already 2 p.m. Only then did her manager hand her phone to her. Fang Yu called. Just a moment ago, Hu Jingjing was rubbing her temples in exhaustion. But, as soon as she heard Fang Yu's name, she immediately snatched the phone out of her manager's hand and called back. Why didn't you tell me earlier? If I told you, would you have abandoned your work and gone to look for him? I can't get through. Hu Jingjing was frustrated when she saw a handsome man standing at the entrance of the set. Without hesitation, Hu Jingjing pounced towards him. How did you find me here? I asked your manager, Fang Yu replied as he hugged Hu Jingjing. Didn't that mean you waited a long time? Not really. Fang Yu looked at his watch before holding onto Hu Jingjing's hand. I'll take you to dinner. Why are you here? Isn't Hai Rui busy? Hu Jingjing followed closely behind Fang Yu. I came with Tongning. She asked the president to lend me for 2 days. Fang Yu continued to walk forward. After leaving the set, he led Hu Jingjing to the car park. Tongning found out I haven't seen you in a long time and really missed you. Before she could finish her sentence, Fang Yu suddenly pressed Hu Jingjing against the car beside him and held her between his arms. He then leaned over and planted a kiss on her lips. Do you still miss me? Yes. Hu Jingjing's eyes were misty, but her answer was firm. Fang Yu removed his jacket and wrapped Hu Jingjing in his embrace. He then engulfed her in a passionate kiss until she lost all energy. Only then did he release her. "I missed you too." Hu Jingjing smiled in satisfaction. The couple hugged each other for a long time in the dark corner. It wasn't until Hu Jingjing's stomach rumbled that Fang Yu let out a laugh and pushed her into the car. "I'll take you to eat something delicious." The couple were immersed in the joy of their reunion. They did not notice the paparazzi from Huarong following them the entire time. Lin Chong knew how difficult it was to capture Tongning's photos, so he used the most agile paparazzi in the agency. Who would have thought, instead of Tongning, he would capture Hu Jingjing? What a touching photo. Especially after the couple boarded the car. Although Fang Yu had closed the windows due to his alertness, it was still possible to see how intimate the couple were. It almost escalated into car sex. The paparazzi returned to the hotel with a pile of photos. He then presented them to Lin Chong like he was presenting a treasure. Previously, there were rumors about the two of them. But Zhen Mani suddenly appeared. Now, it seems their relationship has been confirmed. Lin Chong looked at the photos and sneered. This Hu Jingjing has been in love with the same man for over 10 years. Who would have thought she would have a change of heart so quickly? What a slut. Do men deserve to be played with? Isn't it all consensual? The paparazzi did not sense the disgust in Lin Chong's voice. He simply waved his hand. What should we do with these photos then? Although we are working with King, we can't allow ourselves to be led around by him. Since we've captured Hu Jingjing, let's use her to increase our reputation. Sluts like this are meant to be exposed, Lin Chong said in a deep voice. As for Tongning, we will deal with her together with King. Let's wait for a good show. After all, Tongning and Hu Jingjing are best friends. The two sisters sure are dirty together, the paparazzi said unwillingly. Should we extort some money from the cheating couple? Are you stupid? You won't be able to extort anything from anyone. All you will do is attract Mo Ting. The agency had to go into hiding in fear of being discovered by Mo Ting. King even gave them fake identities to avoid attracting Mo Ting's attention. Extort? Wasn't that asking for death? Chapter 316. As Fang Yu and Hu Jingjing returned to the Hilton Hotel, Tongning couldn't help but tease as she saw the couple's fingers intertwined. "You can't bear to let go of me as soon as you see me." Hu Jingjing did not feel embarrassed at all. She simply hugged Fang Yu's arm even tighter. "I've always been bullied by you and President Mo, so it's only right for us to bully you once. I'm afraid of you. Go and rest. It's already 4 in the morning. We still have to work tomorrow morning. I'll lend you my manager tomorrow. I want Fang Yu. Didn't I bring him here for you to enjoy?" Tongning chuckled as she spoke in an ambiguous tone. Hu Jingjing noticed that Fang Yu wasn't used to being judged, so she laughed. "In that case, we'll head back to our room. You should get some rest." "Okay," Tongning nodded gently. Lin Chong was right next door to Tongning. Without Mo Ting, Fang Yu, and even a single staff member by her side, he was sure she wouldn't be able to resist the temptation to go out and look for another man. But, after Fang Yu and Hu Jingjing left, Tongning washed up and lay in bed before giving Mo Ting a phone call. As it was only 10 p.m. in Beijing, Mo Ting was most likely working. Ting. After receiving the phone call, Mo Ting subconsciously looked at the time and furrowed his brows. "It's already 4 p.m. in Milan, why aren't you asleep yet?" "I was thinking about you." Tongning's voice contained a slight sense of grievance. "Just now, I was tortured by Jingjing and Fang Yu. In that case, should I call Fang Yu to come back? Then Jingjing will kill me." Tongning let out a gentle laugh. She did not hide her attachment to Mo Ting at all. "When I'm not around, don't work too late." "Why are you acting like a child today?" "No, I just miss you very much." "In that case, don't hang up the phone, just put it to one side," Mo Ting said gently. Tongning gently nodded her head. In a daze, she placed her phone by her pillow and slowly closed her eyes. Lin Chong overheard Tongning and Mo Ting talking on the phone from next door. His heart skipped a beat. No, with such a good opportunity, Tongning would definitely go out and find another man. She was definitely not a decent woman. However, that night, apart from hugging her phone, Tongning slept peacefully. However, on this quiet night, a previously unknown studio, Hua Rong Studio, suddenly released a shocking piece of news. They immediately released the hottest photo of the year, a man and a woman passionately entangled in a dark underground parking lot. Afterwards, someone quickly discovered the identities of the two women. They were the international supermodel Hua Jingjing and the artist's director of Hai Rui, Fang Yu, who had previously been involved in scandals. In fact, if it was just the exposure of a relationship, it wouldn't have caused such a stir. But the problem was the scale of this set of pictures. After kissing in the parking lot, they returned to the car and continued. It gave people a feeling of lust. Afterwards, Hua Rong Studio quickly dug up Hua Jingjing's past. Just a month or two ago, she was in love with a jerk and was covered in bruises. In the end, in just a short period of time, she was already entangled with the director of Hai Rui. Was Hua Jingjing's diary written for the sake of PR? If you love someone so deeply, how could you throw yourself into another man's arms in less than 2 months? This picture is too lustful. It's as if the car is going to have sex at any moment. Is Fang Yu trying to destroy Hai Rui's image? I must say, Fang Yu's taste is quite heavy. How could he possibly kiss a pair of used shoes? This kind of picture is teaching children the wrong things. Hai Rui was the first to receive news of the incident. Lu Che immediately asked Mo Ting how they should handle the situation. Fang Yu was the artist's director and PR director, yet, he was the one that was exposed. From now on, how could Hai Rui's PR be convincing? President. Mo Ting looked at the vicious comments online and the sudden rise of Hua Rong Studio. Although he did not say a word, his eyes were filled with a deadly coldness. First, give Tongning a phone call and tell her to change the hotel. Then, control the media and public opinion. Mo Ting threw his phone aside. I need to find a new artist's director. President, what do you mean? Leave this matter for Fang Yu to handle, Mo Ting said as he lifted his head to look at Lu Che. But, no matter what the outcome was, Fang Yu was not going to continue as the artist's director. What about Hua Rong Studio? In 10 minutes, I want you to organize Lin Chong's information and place it on my desk, Mo Ting instructed in a deep voice. I will make him regret ever coming to this world. Lu Che looked at Mo Ting with a complicated expression. After all, this matter concerned his good friend. Afterwards, Lu Che turned around and left. However, after taking a few steps, he turned around and said to Mo Ting, Fang Yu actually knows a lot. Mo Ting picked up his phone and looked at Lu Che. Lu Che's heart skipped a beat as he turned around and left. Afterwards, Mo Ting gave Tongning a phone call. It seemed, Tongning had not received any news from China yet. The main reason was because Long Jie had not accompanied her. I've asked Lu Che to change a hotel for you. Did you know? Why do I need to change a hotel? Tongning asked as she got changed. It's not safe. Mo Ting replied. Perhaps he was afraid Tongning would overthink, so he added, my flight is tonight. If there's anything you want to discuss, wait until I arrive. At this moment, Tongning still didn't understand Mo Ting's words. But, she immediately gave Long Jie a phone call. What happened in Beijing? You still don't know? Long Jie was currently in a difficult situation. The media had been ringing her phone non-stop because Tongning and Hua Jingjing's relationship was extremely close. Just tell me. I can't say it out loud. Just watch the news. Not long after, Long Jie sent her a link to the news. After hanging up the phone, Tongning took a few steps back in disbelief. Tongning ignored her work and directly returned to the hotel to look for Hua Jingjing and Fang Yu. At this time, the two women were sitting in their room in silence. Tongning, take care of Jingjing. I need to return a phone call. As soon as Fang Yu saw Tongning, he immediately pulled her over to Hua Jingjing's side. Tongning knew it must be a phone call from Hai Rui, so she pointed to the door with her chin, gesturing for him to hurry. Hu Jingjing was in a daze. After Fang Yu left, she turned around and hugged Tongning. She was on the verge of breaking down. What can I do? What can I do to save his reputation? Tongning wrapped her arms around Hu Jingjing and said apologetically, I was wrong. What has this got to do with you? We are in a normal relationship. What's wrong with being intimate? Hu Jingjing's cold tears dripped onto Tongning's neck. You did nothing wrong. Tongning gently patted her on the back comfortingly. Is he going to lose his position as the director of Hai Rui? Tongning, I know you have a lot of tricks up your sleeves. As long as you can stop the rumors from hurting Fang Yu, I am willing to give up anything. Chapter 317. You don't need to give up on anything. Tongning's eyes suddenly turned red. Hu Jingjing was still the same Hu Jingjing. For the sake of love, she was still willing to give up anything. But, I really don't want him to be pointed at, he has already endured enough slander and hurt. After Fang Yu received the phone call, he stood in the doorway and overheard Hu Jingjing's cries. In reality, Hu Jingjing wasn't a woman that liked to cry. She was able to endure 10 years of torture. But, for him, for the sake of his reputation, she actually broke down like this. Fang Yu held onto the phone in his hand tightly as he returned to his room and stood in front of Hu Jingjing. Tongning knew Fang Yu had something to say, so she stood up, entered the guest room and closed the door behind her. Fang Yu wrapped his arms around Hu Jingjing so she could bury herself in his embrace. After quite some time, he finally comforted, don't underestimate me, okay? I've been Hai Rui's PR director for 5 years. Did you think I wouldn't be able to handle something as simple as this? Hu Jingjing lifted her head and looked at Fang Yu with teary eyes. Fang Yu's heart felt like it was being stabbed by needles. He leaned over and held her face in his hands as he gently kissed her. Trust me, nothing will happen to us. Really? Even if you don't trust me, you should at least trust President Mo, right? Fang Yu gently rubbed Hu Jingjing's shoulder and smiled comfortingly. However, I really won't be the director of Hai Rui anymore. Then. Because I've been promoted. Fang Yu raised the phone in his hand and gently shook it. President Mo has asked me to step back behind the scenes to train PR staff and do planning. He has also promoted me to vice president of Hai Rui. Hu Jingjing cried and laughed at the same time. Her eyelashes were covered in sparkling tears. However, her face couldn't help but reveal a smile. Is this true? Really? Do you think I'll get candy if I lie to you? Fang Yu patted Hu Jingjing's head in pain. Don't cry, my heart hurts. What should we do from now on? Of course we go back and fight. After speaking, Fang Yu knelt down on the floor and held onto Hu Jingjing's shoulder. However, from now on, we will never be apart again. Even if I have to torture you for the next 10 years, don't even think about leaving me. I won't leave you even if I die. Don't talk about dying or not, we will always be together. Fang Yu stared at Hu Jingjing with a rare look of love in his eyes. Jingjing, did you know? Compared to Tongning's wisdom, you are braver than anyone else. Not everyone can start afresh after enduring 10 years of torture. Hu Jingjing held back her tears, but her chest was suddenly filled with strength, because after her sister died, she was alone and had nothing to rely on. The only thing she had was courage. If Tongning needed it, she would give it to her. If Fang Yu needed it, she would give it to him. But in reality, sometimes a crisis was also an opportunity. It was just a matter of how to use this opportunity. Didn't Tongning always have a good grasp of this line? Since they were best friends, after overhearing their conversation, Tongning immediately gave Mo Ting a phone call. Ting, postpone my work in Milan. I want to come back and fight alongside them. After hearing Tongning's words, Mo Ting lowered his head and smiled. I've already booked your plane tickets. Whether it was Long Jie and Zihao or Hu Jingjing, as long as they truly wanted Tongning, she would protect them no matter the cost. So, he had already guessed that Tongning wouldn't sit idly by. This time, we will definitely make Hua Rong Studio pay the price. Of course. But, Your flights will be split up because the airport is also their battlefield. However, your flight will arrive half an hour earlier than theirs. I will pick you up near the airport. I will listen to your arrangements. At a time like this, it was a battle between men, a battle between Fang Yu and the media. All she could do was not cause trouble for them. In the end, the three of them decided to return to Beijing together. Tang Ning knew, at a time like this, Hu Jingjing needed a strong backing. From what we know, Hai Rui's director Fang Yu and Hai Rui's model, Hu Jingjing, have already landed in Beijing. However, the autumn-winter fashion week is just around the corner, so Hu Jingjing must be very busy. So, from what we can deduce, the two have decided to return to China to deal with the negative effects of their relationship. Since they are openly making their move, it seems they have no intention of running away and are planning to face the attack head-on. Right now, the airport has already been surrounded by a large number of reporters. As we can see, the exit has already been taken over by the media. As Tang Ning had arrived earlier than the two and left directly from the tarmac, she had a clear view of the bloodbath outside the airport. She had experienced a scene like this before. The last time she was accused of killing Han Xin'er, she managed to escape because she had returned to China early. At this moment, it was 1 p.m. in Beijing. Meanwhile, Fang Yu escorted Hu Jingjing out of the terminal. Just as they were about to leave the airport, a group of reporters immediately surrounded them, completely blocking their way. Fang Yu hugged Hu Jingjing tightly. Even though he was being pushed around, he still whispered in her ear, "Hold on tightly to my hand." Seeing the couple's hands intertwined, the reporters immediately asked, "Mr. Fang, can you tell us when the two of you first started dating?" "Mr. Fang, you are a famous PR expert. In that case, was your appearance today also a PR ploy?" Miss Hua has a nickname in the industry, Broken Shoes. I wonder what Mr. Fang thinks about the way people look at you. At first, the media were relatively polite. But, as Fang Yu remained silent, their questions became more impatient and sharp. In fact, they even started to attack Hu Jingjing personally. "You must be creating hype, right? After all, Hu Jingjing had an abortion 3 times for another man. Mr. Fang, did Hu Jingjing seduce you first? Did she sacrifice herself for the sake of resources? Right now, the entire internet is calling Hu Jingjing a bitch. Mr. Fang, what do you think about this?" Hearing the last few questions, Fang Yu finally stopped in his tracks. Facing the reporters and the black hole of cameras, his expression was unusually firm. "I hope that the people that are calling my fiancée a bitch can step out and tell me that she has never broken up with anyone or dumped anyone. That she or he is innocent and has never played around with men or women. That she has never had an abortion for a man or that no woman has ever had an abortion for him. If she or he can't do it, then all the insults that are directed at my fiancé today are simply insulting themselves. Or perhaps, they are simply jealous that they can't find someone like me that can tolerate my fiancé. To me, a body is just a shell. Even if she is a broken shoe in your eyes, in my eyes, she is still a treasure." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.